news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, -6, and Smiths Falls, -5. And here's what's making news right now. CHEO will be updating the community in about an hour. The hospital says a surge has produced an extraordinary effort from the entire staff. The CEO of the hospital, along with Dr. Lindy Sampson, the Chief of Staff and Chief Medical Officer, also Dr. Ken Farian, the VP of Quality and Strategy, providing an update at 11 o'clock. Right now, the hospital is reporting it could take 9.5 hours to see a doctor in emergency, depending on the severity of the illness. City News Time 10:01, and with your latest forecast, here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
It's another cool start to our day. Morning wind chill near -10, some flurries at times. Some areas could even see a quick accumulation of a centimeter or two. 1 degree, the guaranteed high, -7 for the low. A few flurries tonight and then some clearing. For the weekend, chance of flurries both days. May get some sunny breaks, though, too. 2 degrees tomorrow, -2 Sunday. For today, the guaranteed high, +1.
And right now in Ottawa, -6. In Smiths Falls, it's -5 degrees. A meeting date has now been set for the Public School Board in Ottawa to discuss the mandatory masking of students. Trustee Dr. Neely Kaplan-Mirth tweeting out this morning that a meeting is set for Tuesday evening starting at 6:30. Several members of the recently elected board favor the use of masks in school to counter this surge in respiratory infections. Kaplan-Mirth tweeting out this morning, protective measures are about taking care of each other. The rental market, it is getting a whole lot more expensive in Ottawa. With the details, here's City News reporter Chris Curries.
A one-bedroom apartment now a shade under $2,000 and a two-bedroom just shy of $2,500, both up over 20% from last year. The condo market faring a bit better in comparison. It's up 7.6%. Now, home rentals for a one- or two-bedroom apartment are up about 6%. Ottawa ranked 13th of 35 cities analyzed, but sitting in third in the major markets, of course behind Toronto and Vancouver. Gatineau sits in 24th on the list, where you should be looking for a two-bedroom apartment to rent, which have actually slightly decreased in price. A one-bedroom is up 15%. Chris Curries, City News.
City News Time 10:03. A rally is planned for tomorrow afternoon at Parliament Hill. The Women Life Freedom Organization say the group is made up of Iranian and Canadian community leaders and human rights activists. The group will be marching from Supreme Court to Parliament Hill, spending a couple of hours in the downtown protesting between 1 and 3. They're hosting a joint rally remembering the victims of Flight PS752 and Bloody November, the uprising in Iran in 2019. And the Buffalo International Airport canceling flights and turning travelers away due to lake-effect snow paralyzing parts of western and northern New York State. U.S. National Weather Service warning of accumulation up to 120 centimeters of snow. Ahead of the storm, the NFL announced it was relocating the Buffalo Bills' home game. Instead of being played in Buffalo on Sunday, they're tangling with Cleveland in Detroit. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, good morning, Ottawa. Welcome to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam is off today. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. Welcome to the show. Oh, my goodness, so much to talk about. Let's start off with a little story time, because I know I've got some friends listening in from the RCMP Curling Club. If you've never curled before, let me just tell you how engaging and wonderful just the environment is. And I'm not just talking about my club, all clubs. Curling just has this great vibe to it, you know? So last night, I wasn't even set to curl. Last night, my wife was out of the house. She wasn't around. You know, I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, I don't really want to sit around streaming whatever. Feel like being around people. I'm a people person. Feel like being around people. I'll go to the club and, have a beer, watch some curling. Maybe somebody needs a spare. My wife and I have a locker there. got my equipment there, so went to the curling club. Just happens, I let everybody know, hey, if you're looking for a spare, I'm available. If not, I'll just watch. I love watching curling. As a matter of fact, just bought my tickets to the Men's World Curling Championships coming to Ottawa, TD Place, in April. I'm excited about that. I've never seen any kind of professional curling competition in person, so this is pretty exciting. And it's the Worlds coming here, so I'm pretty excited. So last night, great group of guys. They're looking for a fourth. We get out there, we curl. It's a good game. We're having a good game. We get some bad luck. Something gets under one of our rocks in the second last end. It looks like it's, we think, we hit this. We got a chance at 3. We've got for sure 2. We're going to be up by 2. Go into it and hold them to 1, and we win the game. So anyway, it didn't work out that way. We lost the game, but that's okay. When you lose in curling, you win because the other team ends up buying you a beverage anyway. It's the beauty of curling. So there we are at the table, sitting around, and you talk about the game. What am I won't name him, I don't want to shame him or anything. But he turns to me and he goes, "What's with you not sweeping in front of the rock?" Wait, this is like my 5th year of curling. I've never heard anybody tell me that I'm not sweeping in front of the rock. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it. Like, where have I been sweeping? Behind the rock? Beside the rock? And I'm kind of taken aback. Like, again, we're there to support each other. We all make mistakes. We all didn't have the best shots every time. Didn't necessarily sweep the best maybe every time. Just, he threw me for a loop. And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I tell you what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm on the Sam Laprade show, and I'm opening the show with this story of how this welcoming environment that I'm used to walking into, it's like walking into Cheers, I feel like Norm. I walk in there, and everyone's like, Derek! And you feel so welcome. Not so welcome after the game, though. Being shamed for my sweeping. Anyway, there's my personal story. Sorry to bore you with my curling story. But I did get to throw in that the Men's World Championships are coming in April. And if you don't have your tickets, by the way, I was a little late to the party buying tickets yesterday. I mean, I got pretty good seats still, but I guess I was pleasantly surprised in seeing that, wow, ticket sales are going really well. So if you're a curling fan, and curling's amazing because friends of mine that have gone to some of these professional competitions are always amazed at how interactive the teams are with everybody. I mean, after they curl, you meet them in the briar patch, and then there they are. I mean, they're sitting at the same table with you having a beer. It's an amazing experience. So again, head over to the TD Place website there, Lansdowne website, TD Place. What else can we talk about today? Let's talk little World Cup. We're gonna do a World Cup preview. I'll be honest with you. I don't follow it necessarily. I don't follow soccer or football. I don't follow it as much until the World Cup sort of comes, and then I start seeing who are the favorites and the dark horses and that sort of thing. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. So stay tuned for that. That'll be around 10:45. Talk about, as I said, some of the favorites, dark horse, and of course Canada. What we think of this team. It's exciting. First time in 36 years. I was talking to Rob. I join Rob each and every Friday on the show around 8:30, and we were talking about having the World Cup in Qatar. And the latest coming out, I mean, that just announced. Listen, the World Cup is kicking off, and they just announced that they're banning alcohol from being sold, and not banning it from everyone. Just us peasants who may have, I don't know, a few hundred or a few $1,000. I don't even know what a ticket goes for. Aaron, can you look that up, Aaron? or Noah? I'd love to know what sort of the average ticket is. First, you got to get to the World Cup in Qatar, right? You got to get there. I don't know how much
Yeah, so are you wondering with including price for like the flight?
No, just the price in general. Yeah, I mean, if you can get the flight too, that'd be great.
Yeah, give me like a minute here.
Sure. Thanks, Noah. Be interested. Because, as I said, it's not banned for... So those in the luxury boxes, okay, those people in the luxury boxes, they still get to purchase alcohol, wine and top shelf booze. That sort of thing will be available to those in the luxury box. So the wealthiest of people going to watch the World Cup, they will be able to drink alcohol. Those less wealthy, not able to drink alcohol. If you haven't followed the story of Qatar and like it will blow your mind. Listen, I asked this question earlier. I know what the answer is, okay? You don't have to call with the answer. I know it's all about money. I understand that. But you still have to ask yourself, how did this country get the World Cup? It just doesn't make any sense. And let me expand on that, because the government of Canada, if you happen to be going to Qatar for the World Cup, they have issued travel advice for people heading to Qatar. So before I share that, I think, Noah, did you get the price?
Yeah, so, I mean, the prices for each match all kind of vary depending on the category, but you can average, I'd say, between all the matches and categories at around £1,400
for a single ticket.
For a single ticket. Now, the price, this is Canadian dollars, to fly. Let's say you want to just fly from Toronto to Qatar.
Okay.
You're going to be looking at about $2,500.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Closer to 28, it looks like.
Okay, so $2,500 to $2,800 to get there, and then £1,400 on average.
Which is like another $2,000. So.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
About $5,000 to go enjoy
to see one game.
One game. If you want to go for all of it, then.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Hey, hats off to you rich people who get to enjoy the World Cup in Qatar. The rest of us will watch it on television. And you may not even want to watch it on television after you do your homework on the country itself. But hey, let me get back to this travel advice that the Canadian government has just issued. Travel advice for people heading to Qatar. World Cup beginning, of course, on November 20th. Their advice includes the following. All the customs laws and regulations you must keep in mind. So, they tell you to be very careful and read up on that. But according to the notice posted online, a few things to watch out for if you're heading there. Public displays of affection, including holding hands and kissing, is not well socially accepted. And while female travelers aren't expected to wear head covers, revealing clothing is considered inappropriate. The advice cautions travelers to dress conservatively, behave discreetly, respect religious and social traditions, and seek permission from locals before photographing them. The notice also warns travelers that photographing government buildings, littering, or spitting, which, okay, I'm all for the no littering thing, no matter where you are, even the spitting, in a public place. But do not photograph government buildings. Like, I'm not even sure in Qatar, if I was wandering around, I could really distinguish a government building from other buildings anyway. I don't know. I've never been. Maybe they have, the signage that would make it fairly obvious, but you could actually be fined or face jail time for photographing a government building. Other things, eating pork deemed an illegal activity that could also put you in a situation where you could face heavy fines or jail time. For those driving while in Qatar, The notice says drivers in the country are generally considered extremely aggressive. Extremely aggressive. Well, listen, those of us that have been to Montreal, we're used to that. We can handle the extremely aggressive driving. Heck, I say Montreal, but are we really any better in Ottawa on our roads now? My goodness. Actually, we're going to talk Qatar in Lunch with Derek today. Talk a little World Cup with you. We won't be talking curling. Don't worry. My curling story has ended. And we're going to talk Twitter. Oh, my goodness. That's the other thing. I get home a little late. I'm not going to lie. A little late last night. It was a late night. And before bed, I just jump on social media, Twitter in particular, and I find out that it's burning to the ground. What is happening?
It's really dying. It's dying.
Is it really?
It's dying. It's trending on Twitter. It says Twitter is dying.
Twitter is dying.
It's a sad day.
I don't think it's sad, actually.
I saw your tweet. Actually,
did you see my tweet?
Yes.
I should find it here so I can read it verbatim to everybody, because I don't know. Should we really be that upset?
To quote Derek Fage.
Oh, yeah, you found it? Okay.
Fage, goodbye, #Twitter. You lonely, isolating social media platform that has divided, destroyed, and killed our real social interactions for so few years in the history of humankind. You deserve this. Hope to see you all in person in our vibrant communities around the world.
Isn't that right? I mean, maybe we should celebrate.
I am kind of with you. Like, destruction of social media is always like, okay.
It's... I don't know if I, do it, Rob Snow always describes it as the death scrolling, right? You get on to something. Some people, I guess, do it on TikTok and Instagram. I tend to do it on Twitter because, I like to, you know what? It's good if you're in media for sure, because a lot of breaking news happens on, but to get to the breaking news, you have to get through the rest of the cesspool of ugliness that I call Twitter. I also said, this is good, friends. Take up a hobby, a sport, connect with people offline, enjoy life, experience new and delightful things. Good riddance, Twitter, we are free. It looks like it actually might be happening. Like, I thought it was a bit of a joke, but then I saw that every single post as I death scrolled was about the death and people sort of saying goodbye and where to find them on... What's the new, the Mastodon or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's called Mastodon.
Mastodon. So maybe I'll see some of you there. I doubt I'm going over there. I'm still on Facebook and Instagram. So if we lose Twitter, you can connect with me there. All right, I've gone over time here. I'm going to let you go. We'll be back to talk. The Santa Toy Parade is back. See, there's some positive news we don't have to jump on social media to find out about. You just have to listen here on City News. This is Derek Fage filling in for Sam Laprade. And as I said, you're listening on City News and watching on Rogers TV.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
I'm a singer-songwriter from Six Nations, and I've been writing songs about my experience, and with that being said, it's helped me hold hope in my heart in following my dreams and being resilient to everyday Indigenous battles. Can't competition between spirit, earth, and wind. Let me tell you now. This song in particular, The Shiner, is a special song that I wrote for my grandfather. He was a snow snake maker, and that is a Haudenosaunee winter sport. It's my job to educate and to share, and the music allows me to do that. He'll be shining snow snakes and mudcats to the end of his days.
Bipolar disorder.
Substance addiction.
Bulimia.
OCD. Want to swap?
1 in 2. A flip of a coin. That's the same chance we'll experience a mental illness by the time we're 40. $1 a day can help change those odds.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Sam. Sam will be back on Monday. So I said, you know what's nice about the Sam Show is we get to share good news, exciting things that are happening in the community, and certainly excited to tell you that the Help Santa Toy Parade is back on track for its 53rd year. Here to tell us more about it, Cameron Taylor is joining us, chair of the Help Santa Toy Parade. Good morning, Cameron. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
I imagine you
to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I imagine you are doing great because you guys are back. I mean, let's just talk about that excitement first of all for you and the team, Cameron.
Well, it's awesome. You know, I got to actually meet up with Santa this morning. We were discussing final logistics for tomorrow, and you know, everybody at the Ottawa Professional Firefighters Association has been putting a lot of effort in, and we're really excited to have crowds out tomorrow for the first time in 3 years to collect toys and you know, put on a good show for Ottawa.
Yeah, what can people expect this year? You mentioned put on a good show, so what kind of show are we going to see tomorrow?
Well, we've got a ton of floats and performers and all kinds of things. We're going to be starting in front of City Hall on Laurier Avenue. We're going to be proceeding down Laurier to Bank Street, and then we're going to be turning on to Bank and heading south all the way to Lansdowne Park so that we can give as much possibility for people to get out as possible.
This is, of course, the best part of this is giving back to the community, Cameron. Let's talk about that and how the Help Santa Toy Parade does that so well.
Yeah, so you know, we're really fortunate. We are paired up with Toy Mountain, and Toy Mountain is this great institution that gets toys to children all over the local area who might not otherwise have the opportunity to open a toy on Christmas morning. So we're collecting unwrapped gifts, unwrapped new toys on the parade route. We'll have firefighters and scouts out collecting those toys, and people will be able to bring those, and we're trying to fill that cart. We've got a huge, big toy cart being towed.
Nice.
And we're trying to fill that up. And then we're going to have our boots, as usual. Firefighters always raise money with their boots.
Yep.
And we're going to try and fill our boots with coins and cash. And then new this year, we've teamed up with a company called Tip Tap. We're going to have a cashless tap option on 50 of our boots for $10. And people will be able to tap their phones, debit cards, or credit cards to give if they want to do that as well.
Oh, what a great idea. What does it take to put this parade on, Cameron? You know, I understand that, you know, this is all done by volunteers. And, of course, I know the community and the business community in particular step up. But just sort of paint the picture for us what it takes to put this on.
You know, there are hundreds of people involved. You know, earlier in the week, we put out a call for volunteers, and we have over 200 non-firefighter volunteers. And then I've got 50 people from the job helping.
Nice.
We have local businesses, as I said, you know, Frontline Financial Credit Union has been a huge supporter. We've got Give Cloud is a large supporter of ours. They're helping us with all of our donation management. We've got incredible support from Hydro Ottawa, actually. Like there's all kinds of local businesses. The community comes together, of course, to bring all of these toys and all of this money together so that, that works out. And it takes all year, we'll be getting started again in February to get lined up for next year to make sure that it goes as well as possible. This year is my first year, so I'm learning a bit. So we know that it takes quite a lot. So we'll be starting early.
You mentioned this is your first year, Cameron. So what brought you to the Help Santa Toy Parade?
I've been very fortunate, I should say, to be involved with the Help Santa Toy Parade and the Parade of Lights in Orleans. Actually, most of my life, my father was a firefighter, and so I had the opportunity to go to these parades when I was a kid as well. So they were looking for somebody to do that. It felt like the right thing to do.
You mentioned the Santa's Parade of Lights is back as well, right, in Orleans. That's coming up the following weekend. What can we expect at the Parade of Lights?
Well, the Parade of Lights is a night event. It'll be also in its traditional form running on St. Joseph. And it's on the 26th, and I do believe it starts at 6, but don't quote me on that. That's another colleague of mine runs that parade. Okay. I do believe it's 6 p.m., though, it starts.
No, I looked it up this morning. You are correct. It is 6 p.m., and actually it's kind of perfect timing, too, because people can have sort of an early dinner on Saturday, and it's already dark by 5 p.m. These days, so those lights will be nice and bright, and it'll be a great way to sort of kick off the holiday season, just as the Help Santa Toy Parade does that for us each and every year. Cameron, just remind everybody the start of the parade and the route and when it begins.
Yeah, so it's going to be tomorrow, Saturday, the 19th of November. We're going to be stepping off at 11 a.m. We're going to be starting at Elgin and Laurier, heading down Laurier Avenue to Bank Street, and then we'll be turning south on Bank Street and going all the way to Lansdowne Park through the Glebe.
Terrific. Cameron, really appreciate your time today and your time helping put this together with your team of volunteers. Thanks so much.
No, thank you very much for having me on this morning. It's important to get the word out.
Oh, it's our pleasure. That's Cameron Taylor, chair of the Help Santa Toy Parade, happening tomorrow, 11 a.m. kickoff. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef,
we're going to be making creme brulee, a risotto with wild-caught salmon, lemon, and fresh herbs, and my favorite mista salad.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 18th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is -5. In Smiths Falls, it is -3. And here's what's making news this hour. CHEO will be updating the community later this morning. The hospital says the surge has produced extraordinary efforts from the entire staff. CHEO the CEO of the hospital, along with Dr. Linda Sampson, the Chief of Staff and Chief Medical Officer, and Dr. Ken Farron, the VP of Quality and Strategy, will provide the update at 11. Right now, the hospital is reporting it could take up to 9.5 hours to see a doctor, depending on the severity of illness. And the deadline to purchase the early bird CHEO Dream of a Lifetime ticket is today. All tickets purchased before midnight tonight are in for the early bird prize draw, $250,000 cash. The winning ticket going back into the draw for the grand prize as well, which is worth $3.4 million. And families in this province are preparing for a weekend of uncertainty as education workers with QP grow closer to a possible strike. Now, the union says 55,000 of its workers will walk off the job on Monday if a deal with the province isn't reached by 5 p.m. on Sunday. The two sides recently agreed on a 3.59% wage increase, but the union is still fighting for higher staffing levels. City News time is 10:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam is off today. She will be back on Monday. This is Derek Fage, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. Our next guest is going to be leading a group of doctors going to Queen's Park on Monday to push for healthcare system solutions. And I think you just hearing that sentence are probably nodding your head up and down. Yes, we absolutely need some solutions. My goodness. Let's stop talking about what's wrong with it and start talking about, what we can do to fix it. Our next guest, as I said, is leading that group. Dr. Rose Zacharias joining us here on the show, president of the Ontario Medical Association. Good morning, Dr. Zacharias. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here. So let's talk about what you're pushing for. Walk us through, expand on that for us.
Absolutely. Yes, we are pleased to be going to Queen's Park on Monday with about 120 physicians from across Ontario, and we have several meetings with various MPPs lined up, and we are bringing forward some solutions. We're in a time of healthcare system crisis. We see that in our emergency departments. We see that in our hospitals at a level of overwhelm, and we're in the midst of a flu season and COVID-19 still circulating, and our healthcare team providers are really working hard to care for patients. We see that with doctors and nurses, and so we need to implement some system solutions because there's an incredible amount of strain on the system right now.
Well, let's look at some of those solutions you're looking at. I mean, honestly, when I read them, they seem so obvious. It seems like we've been having this conversation for many years now, Rose. I don't understand why there's not been more attention put to it. We have a federal government that seems to be fighting with the premiers of each province and vice versa on getting more funding from the federal government. Let's talk shorter waiting times. I mean, shortening waiting times. I think I heard correctly. CHEO right now is about an 8.5 hour wait for a child to be looked at. I know that other hospitals have opened up their emergency rooms. What's the solution to shortening those waiting times?
So in the healthcare system, we knew wait times were an issue even before the pandemic. And then, of course, the global pandemic and extreme strain on the healthcare system resources. And so those gaps have been exposed, and we're experiencing tremendous strain. And you're right, emergency departments are like more than at capacity. So I was speaking with a physician who said, their capacity is about 100 visits per day. And in that particular emergency department, the prior day, they'd had 200 people show up to be seen. And so everyone works hard to, of course, triage, which means seeing the most seriously ill people first. And I think we're still good at dealing with emergencies, but we have over 1 million people in Ontario who don't have a family doctor. And people are getting sicker because for a while they didn't engage as readily with the healthcare system because we were sheltering in place. There was a lot of public health restrictions about going out and just some anxiety even around that. And we got backlogs, right? Like there's surgeries that didn't get done, hip replacements, knee replacements. And so people are dealing with chronic pain, kind of an overlay of mental health burden and issues there as well. And so to talk about wait times and to address that, we need to alleviate some of the strain in the healthcare system. So if you'll go with me here for a minute.
I will, absolutely.
Some of what we're seeing in the emergency department is because there's patients who are admitted and stay there for too long. Ideally, they should be moved to a hospital bed within the hospital, but those beds are full. Right. If those beds could be freed up by bringing people out of hospital into a long-term care setting to continue to receive care, perhaps into a hospice bed or a palliative care setting to receive that sort of compassionate, high-quality care in a more appropriate setting, or maybe even discharge someone home from the hospital that just needs some community care, right? Someone looking in on them, some caregiver support so that people at home are robustly supported to care for their loved one just immediately after they're being discharged from hospital. If we could put those investments in the community and in long-term care homes and in palliative care, we could offload the strain in the hospital, which would then trickle down effect to offloading the strain in the emergency departments, and our front doors of our emergency departments could be that much more widely open and able to see everyone who presents. But right now we have such a backlog in that whole system. We need to be strategic about investing those solutions there.
Yeah, and we're talking dollars and we're talking staffing. You touched on, addressing the doctor shortage, but I'd like to expand upon that because I'm not sure we necessarily have a good idea of why we can't seem. I understand, of course, new Canadians coming here and that have been certified in other countries and the difficulty that is. But is it not attractive enough for people to get into the healthcare field, for doctors to get into the healthcare field? What are some of the other reasons, Rose?
Mm-hmm. So we polled our physicians, 43,000 physicians in Ontario, and upwards of 75% said we were operating at a level of burnout. So doing our best, and high capacity professionals who are compassionate and intelligent physicians inside a system that's fractured and cumbersome and just glitchy computer systems, documentation requirements of us that pull us away from that direct patient care. These are some of the things that we need to solve to alleviate the strain on doctors when they want to provide medical care, invest and cultivate that trusting relationship with a patient, to navigate through the medical conditions and to do preventative care, and to be that referral system for family doctors, to be that referral system to the specialists that they need to see. And so we need to offload the documentation requirements and improve the robustness of the computer systems that doctors deal with day in and day out, so that they can get back to being doctors and do what they intended to do when they graduated from medical school, which was to care for their patients.
I just want to remind everybody that's listening or watching on Rogers TV, we're speaking with Dr. Rose Zacharias, president of the Ontario Medical Association. The other thing, Rose, that I've heard as well, and this is specifically, I think, more for family doctors, is that to be a family doctor, suddenly you're also a business owner, because many of these practices are kind of private practices. You have to, rent and lease your own space. You're now, you're now running a business and all that. We know what that entails, right? I mean, that in itself is a full-time job, running a business, and you're also a family physician. Is that something that you've heard, Rose, as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the data plays out as well. Family doctors do best when they're in a team environment, so that there's administrative support, there's a physician extender. Sometimes we refer to physician assistants and nurse practitioners, but also all the other allied healthcare professionals that really are an valuable part of the team when it comes to caring for who we are as complex people. We're talking about psychotherapists and social workers and discharge coordinators. Coming out of hospital is a complicated, kind of vulnerable time. And so if your family doctor has someone on their team that can help you navigate the community supports, navigate the mental health counselor that you could have access to, even the dietitian or the diabetic educator, or someone to partner with families when it's strenuous raising your children and you just need even some family therapy. All of that plays into our physical health, our mental health, and family doctors are kind of the bedrock foundation of how we care for people in Ontario. But to surround themselves with a robust team of healthcare professionals and to connect them all digitally with that computer system that seamlessly communicates with each other's computer system would really set up a doctor and a patient well for that really good therapeutic relationship and help with the health care that every Ontarian needs and deserves.
And the third solution that you're looking at is expanding palliative care. Let's talk about the urgency of that and what the expansion would look like, Rose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we know, in 2017, 2018, of the 100,000 people we know that passed away over that period of time, only 60% received palliative care. So that's the sort of, compassionate comfort measures, symptom relief of pain and nausea and anxiety around that time when patients are actively passing away. If we could provide that type of high quality, compassionate care to individuals who are passing away, we know that would alleviate a lot of the caregiver burden. Would also, there's a lot of unintended visits to emergency departments in those last months, weeks, even days of life. And if we could keep people in their homes supported by palliative care teams that would be on call even 24/7 to provide that compassionate care, it wouldn't be that difficult situation of quickly at the last minute interacting with an emergency department team who's really there to deal with emergencies when this family I'm talking about that's dealing with a loved one who's passing away imminently really would be best cared for in a quiet, calmer setting. That's what I'm talking about, palliative care.
Right.
And everyone deserves that type of care in their last days and last hours of their life.
You and a group of doctors are making your way to Queen's Park on Monday. For those listening in right now, what can they do? How can they help you meet these objectives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as a group of physicians, we are committed to working with all levels of government, and we really want our day at Queen's Park on Monday to show that commitment in a very visible way. So we're actually going to be, hosting a panel discussion, inviting the Minister of Health and her staff and also the MPPs that are already now, we're so grateful for that, committed to meeting with us on Monday. We're hoping the weather cooperates because we've got doctors coming from all across Ontario, and of course the snow is here. But we want to work with government. We have the lived experience of the bedside caregiving of our patients, and we know that the people in high-level politics who are making healthcare system decisions right now need our understanding and our insight, and so we're here to offer it. We're here to offer practical, implementable solutions to the healthcare system so that we can care and can continue to care for our patients well.
Dr. Zacharias, always appreciate your time here on the Sam Laprade Show. Thanks again for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the conversation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. That's Dr. Rose Zacharias, president of the Ontario Medical Association. As we said, she is leading a group of doctors going to Queen's Park on Monday to push for healthcare system solutions. And those three solutions they're bringing forward are shorten wait times, address the doctor shortage, and expand palliative care. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk a little soccer, a little football, if you will. The World Cup, of course, kicking off this weekend, and we're going to give you a bit of a preview, a World Cup preview. We'll talk about some of the favorites, maybe some of the dark horses, and of course talk about Team Canada back after a 36-year absence. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
I did it. I need it.
The hero gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, local country band Lemoncast joining us on the show. A fantastic band. If you've never heard of them, we're really excited to introduce you to them. We'll tell you about one of their upcoming shows and, of course, catch up with them, find out what they've been doing over the summer months. And we'll also tell you about an Ottawa-born dancer that was recently recognized by none other than Janet Jackson. Oh, yeah, I said Janet Jackson. All that and more on Friday's Daytime Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word. Time to demonstrate your commitment to safe and sober driving. Join thousands of Canadians and tie a ribbon on something or someone you love. And take the time to have a real conversation about impaired driving. Mad Project Red Ribbon. Tie it, wear it, show it, share it, live it. Find out more at mad.ca.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. Sam is just off today. She will be back on Monday. And we are going to be talking a little World Cup. I mean, you know, I spoke about some of the negative things a little bit earlier on in the show when it comes to Qatar in itself, but still the World Cup is probably the most watched sporting event. Not probably, it's the most watched sporting event globally. And it always has so much excitement as we get closer and closer to kickoff. Which is on Sunday. And here to talk a little bit World Cup, we're joined by Devang Desai. Welcome to the show, Devang.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's great to have you here. So let's dive first of all into Team Canada. I mean, first time in 36 years we find the men's team joining the World Cup. They have their world ranking, FIFA world ranking, as I understand, is I believe they're 41st in the world right now. What do you make of this team?
Well, I think it's a team that's defied expectations throughout the qualifying process. If you asked us way back a year and a half ago if they were going to beat the U.S. and Mexico in qualifying, I think the majority of Canadian soccer fans would have said that's a bit of a pipe dream, yet here we are, and they did that, and they came first in the group. So I think a lot of us are looking at the teams they have to play in Qatar, whether it be Belgium or Croatia and Morocco, and understanding that it's a massive test, but this team has proven that they can shock people.
In those, in their grouping, who do you think is really the favorite there, and what do you think Canada's chances are?
Well, I think the first team they're going to play next Wednesday, Belgium, is arguably the top dog. Kevin De Bruyne on Manchester City, one of the top 5 players in the world. He's world class. But I think the common denominator for the two best teams, Croatia and Belgium, is that they skew a bit on the older side in terms of their roster composition. So there's a lot of known products, a lot of people that have applied their trade at the top levels for a long time. But you could argue that maybe leaves them susceptible to a team with a lot of pace and a lot of game-breaking talent. And I think Canada has both of those things. So Croatia, Belgium, two very good teams. Morocco's got a lot of solid players as well. They should not be underestimated. But I would say Belgium and Croatia are the leaders of the pack and favorite to go through.
Of course, John Herdman's done a wonderful job when we look at, sort of tactically how he has formed this team, and the types of formations. Like he's used a number of formations, most notably sort of the 4-3-3, the 3-5-4, the 3-4-3. I mean, he does mix it up. Do you think he continues to do that, or does he choose a specific formation depending on each opponent? What do you expect?
I think that honestly, that's the biggest question I really have.
Really, eh?
I think John Herdman, like you said, he's a master tactician, and he devotes so much of himself into these game plans and keeps things so tight to the vest that it's hard to know really what they're going to do against Belgium, because if they do play normally like they do, it's usually with two midfielders, and then you have fullbacks who are operating as wingbacks that are going up and down the pitch, and then maybe 3 central defenders at the back. Against Belgium, perhaps you want to pack that midfield because you're going against the Kevin De Bruyne, so you add an extra guy in there, whether it be a Jonathan Osorio or a Sam Piet alongside a Tipa Hutchinson and Stefan Eustáquio. But part of me hopes that Canada does what they've always done so far and play to their strengths and maybe not adapt too much to the competition. But another part of me understands that Belgium is a huge test, and you got to play the competition in front of you. That includes a really, really great player in the middle of the park.
Let's look at the World Cup, overall. Who are the favorites? Who are you excited to watch outside of Canada, Devang?
There's the Lionel Messi story, the factor. Argentina is a very, very popular pick, I think, to win this trophy. And if this is Leo Messi's last tournament, what a story that would be just for the wider soccer world. Brazil, I'm not breaking any news here, but Argentina and Brazil.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Brazil is absolutely loaded with talent, and I think the thing we expect from Brazil usually is the attacking flair and the talent up top. But from back to front, they are just so stacked, and I really think defensively they are underrated. So I expect Brazil to do well, and also Uruguay. So I'm going to go all South America here. Uruguay's got an interesting mix of players playing in their last World Cup, whether it be your Cavani's or your Luis Suarez's, and then an intriguing mix of youngsters who look like they're going to be really, really good at the top level for a long time. So let's go all South American here.
I like it. I think there's, in Ottawa in particular, I know there's a lot of fans of England. What do you think about their chances?
A great team, great collection of players.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question is about the manager, Gareth Southgate. From the highs of Euro 2020 and making the final to now, I think a lot has changed, and his team selection has come under fire, and some recent injuries, including Reece James, the Chelsea star, being rolled out, is leading to more questions about Southgate. So I don't really doubt the quality they have on the pitch, but I do doubt perhaps the manager and how he utilizes his players. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run. They've got Harry Kane who can bag goals for fun, but I'm a bit skeptical of the backroom staff.
You mentioned Uruguay, and I sort of had them as one of my dark horses. Maybe they're not really a dark horse after the way you described them. Is there a couple of dark horses in your mind that we should keep an eye out for?
I think Serbia's been a popular pick. I think Alexander Mitrovic for Fulham has been lighting that league up for fun, and alongside Dusan Vlahovic, who plays for Juventus, they can create a lot of problems for teams at the back. The midfield is very strong as well. I think I like Switzerland as well in terms of players that are performing well at the right time. One of the most intriguing parts of this tournament, I think, is going to be the fact that it's happening mid-season. And we've never really seen this before. So injuries happening. We've already seen Sadio Mane for Senegal being rolled out. I think Senegal was going to be a popular pick as well, but that loss is a big one.
For those, I mean, the World Cup is fascinating because what tends to happen is even people that aren't necessarily fans of soccer, they're brought into this spectacle, right? Because it's so exciting, and because it's global, and because it's the most watched sporting event in the world. For those that are sort of tuning in for the first time, Devang, and you want to sort of capture their imagination, who would you suggest they watch? Obviously Brazil for me comes to mind. They're just so exciting with the brand of soccer and you described it so well earlier. But any other team with just that kind of Brazilian flair that new fans might want to check out?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot to choose from, and honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with any of Brazil, Uruguay, or Argentina in terms of that flair. But I think two teams that'll be interesting, and two teams that if you're a soccer fan or a lap soccer fan that you knew in the past to be really good, Spain and Germany, they're in a weird transition, not a weird, but perhaps an interesting transition where a lot of their former stars are now out the door and they're ushering in a new generation. But those young players they have are quite spectacular. And I think the likes of Pedri and Gavi on Spain or Jamal Musiala on Germany, watching youngsters like that break out on the world stage is one of my favorite things to do. And I think these tournaments, when they come around, they create stars that we were expecting and the stars that we were not expecting. So even though I've mentioned those youngsters, it's those maybe players that we don't hear a lot about breaking through with one big goal, because that's the other thing I love about this tournament. Yeah. All it really takes is one goal, and that can change everything, and it makes household names of perhaps people we never would have thought of.
Oh, you've gotten me even more excited. Devang, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Enjoy the spectacle that is the World Cup. And again, that kicks off November the 20th. That was Devang Desai, Sportsnet author, covering the World Cup for Sportsnet. Going to take a break here. Our news is coming up. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show, and you're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef, we're going to be making creme brulee, a risotto with wild-caught salmon, lemon, and fresh herbs, and my favorite mista salad.
I'm Mallory, and I was walking home one night when an impaired driver hit me. He had been overserved in 2 bars before getting behind the wheel. If the servers would have called him a cab instead of serving him more alcohol, my life would be the same as what it used to be. I think servers play the biggest role in keeping us safe because it's up to them what state the person's in when they leave. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Every year, Dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 18th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow -5. In Smiths Falls, it is -3. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. CHEO will be updating the community on what's happening at the hospital amid the triple threat of viruses. Sometime this hour, we hear from the CEO of the hospital, along with Dr. Lindy Sampson, the Chief of Staff and Chief Medical Officer, and also the VP of Quality and Strategy. Right now, the hospital is reporting it could take up to 9.5 hours to see a doctor, depending on the severity of the illness. And the federal government is also set to provide an update on the shortage of children's pain medication, which has been plaguing many families for weeks. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has the story.
This shortage has had parents scrambling, visiting multiple pharmacies, asking pharmacists for compounded medicines or even trying to buy some from the U.S. However, soon government officials will hold a news conference to talk about infant and children's acetaminophen and ibuprofen. This comes days after Health Canada announced it has secured a foreign supply of the medications that will be available in the coming weeks with both French and English labels. It's unclear how much has been secured or when exactly it will arrive. Some medical professionals have said the recent spike in patients at children's hospitals may be in part due to the lack of medication to control fevers during the wave of respiratory illnesses like RSV, the flu, and COVID. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Some flurries at times for us today. Some areas could even collect a centimeter or two. Quick accumulation. -7 for the low after the guaranteed high +1. Chance of flurries for the weekend, 2 degrees tomorrow, but then just -2 on Sunday. Strong west wind. For today, the guaranteed high +1.
City News time is 11:02. Ottawa's new mayor was sworn in earlier this week, and he's already got his first trip to Queen's Park planned. City News reporter Chris Curries has that story.
A week after he's sworn in, Mayor Mark Sutcliffe will be in Toronto meeting with Premier Doug Ford.
The most important thing is that we start building a relationship.
He also wants to discuss OC Transpo's $85 million deficit, a $35 million hole in cleanup costs from the May long weekend storm, and about Bill 23.
Which we'll be speaking with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing about because there are some significant impacts on how houses will be built in Ottawa and the finances of the city as well.
The City of Ottawa has written to the province with their concerns, as have a number of other municipalities across Ontario. Chris Curries, City News.
Twitter is losing engineers and other workers even faster than before after new owner Elon Musk gave them a choice: either pledge to a hardcore workday or resign with severance pay. Hundreds of employees signaled they were leaving ahead of yesterday's 5 p.m. deadline, signing off officially from the company's internal Slack messaging board. The newest round of the patches means the platform is continuing to lose workers just as it is gearing up for the World Cup. Now, the tournament, one of the busiest events on Twitter, could overwhelm its systems if things go haywire. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. Sam will be back on Monday. As you know, we like to talk about the news here on this show, here on City News. And one of the biggest moments in the news recently is the conversation between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Justin Trudeau. And I don't know, I think for a lot of us, we felt it was a surprising move by the Chinese president. Certainly seemed to highlight the disregard, I think that's the best way to describe it, he has for our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. That's, I mean, according to some experts and former diplomats. But here to break it down for us further and talk Canada-China relations, we are joined by Jeremy Paltiel. He is a professor at Carleton University. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
What did you make? I mean, this went quite viral on social media. This exchange. What did you make of it when you first witnessed it?
Well, I mean, I think it was a kind of response. It does show certainly Xi Jinping's attitude towards our prime minister. But I think why he did it is because initially before the G20 there was no scheduled marginal talk between Prime Minister Trudeau and Xi Jinping, the Chinese president. But then the Chinese president agreed to an informal talk on the margins. And I'd like to emphasize that from the Canadians, they said, okay, see, we're in the same club as Joe Biden. We got to talk to him too, and even though it's scheduled, but informal talk and a formal talk are two different things.
Right.
And in the talk between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping, it went on for 3 hours, and each side released their own readout of the talks once they were over.
Right.
But as in an informal talk, then there is no parallel release of a readout. But then the Chinese president was dismayed that Prime Minister Trudeau did, in fact, release his own readout to the Canadian press.
And how? Sorry, I was just going to ask you
a moment to basically talk him down.
Right. I was going to ask, was it inappropriate then of the Prime Minister, do you think?
Well,
to release that?
It depends. Clearly, the Chinese president did think so. And I suppose since it was not matched by the Chinese side, they were blindsided. So they saw it as a breach of protocol. And I think the exchange itself shows pretty clearly where each side is at. I think because if you listen to what Mr. Trudeau said after Xi Jinping spoke to him and he basically was turning his back and walking away, Mr. Trudeau sought to repeat some of the points that he made, including criticism of Chinese human rights record. So essentially, Mr. Trudeau's engaged in talks to Xi Jinping, not really to influence Xi Jinping, but in some sense to influence public opinion at home about the strong line he's taking towards China. And China replied in kind.
What do you think about the reaction from home? Because I've seen mixed reactions. Obviously the Prime Minister himself felt that there would be a good reaction back home, and that they would respect the fact that he's being transparent in his talks with China. Not everybody felt that way. How did you feel, Jeremy?
Well, the point is, the question is, what's the point? Is Mr. Trudeau trying to engage in diplomacy with the Chinese in order to influence Chinese behavior and to make some progress on Canadian interests, or is he simply trying to show Canadians back home that he's tough on China and doesn't back down on human rights? And the question, if it's the second and not the first, then the Chinese are not likely to be influenced. And in that case, the question is this simply a scoring points for the sake of politics at home?
Do you think that President Xi Jinping did that kind of publicly to send a message?
Yes.
Yeah. I felt the same way. Yeah.
Saying, essentially what he was really saying, the translation of what he said, what there will be consequences. It's hard to say what will happen, will come of this, is what is probably a proper translation of what he said at the end. It's hard to say what will come out of this. What he means is that you're not likely to respond positively to any further Canadian overtures in his thing, because he doesn't see what's in it for him. And so in some sense, the question is what kind of relationship we want to have with China. And if we want to have some influence over China, I think we've just lost influence with China.
Right. What kind of influence do you think we should have, and where do you put China and Canada relations at this point? I mean, they're certainly fractured. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the question. I mean, China still is the world's second largest economy, the world's largest manufacturer, the world's largest exporter. And so if we cut China out of our plans, then actually we're going to make ourselves poorer. There's no question about that. But there is. I mean, that doesn't mean we have to simply kowtow to Chinese, and I'm not saying that should. The question, again, even on the questions of human rights, the question is what's the best way to influence Chinese behavior, or in particular cases of particular individuals, if we want to get better treatment for them, how can we persuade the Chinese to do better? Obviously, China is not likely to be listening more closely, and I'm not saying that they would so much otherwise. It's a real dilemma. We have a big power, with lots of power and lots of influence, and the question is what's the best way for Canada to at least play whatever role it can to influencing it in its own interests. And that's a question for our Canadian leadership.
How do you think Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to react to this particular sort of snub, if you will? Should he ignore it, or does he take this opportunity to maybe try to save face in some way? How do you see this playing out for our Prime Minister?
I don't see. I think that Mr. Trudeau is coming from a place where he knows the Canadian public opinion is not pro-China. And they've been making a number of moves lately to which are guaranteed otherwise to both make China look worse in Canada, with the allegations of spying, electoral interference, etc., which have been echoed by the Prime Minister himself. So I think that the general message is that we don't like you, and we don't like what you're doing, and we don't, and so, and that seems to play reasonably well in Canada. Major media outlets and press are not particularly pro-Chinese either. Our position is also pretty much anti-China, so this plays well at home. And there's the other aspect of it is that it's in line with, at some levels, it's in line with what Washington is doing, and the United States is our major trading partner. And we've been wanting, for example, exemptions on some of the Buy American provisions having to do with electric vehicle manufacturing, etc. So we want to keep on the good side of the Americans. This is one way to do it, to show the Americans that we're on side. And that's where most of our bread and butter is. So it protects us on one level. So it's a kind of two-sided thing. On the other hand, the Americans are going to continue to work with China where they can because they want to prevent the next world war.
I know you touched on this already, Jeremy, but just want to go back to it just for a moment, and that is, it not being feasible, right, that we can just shut out China, and I'm not sure that many of us know how important China is to our economy. It would be quite disastrous, I would imagine, if we tried to shut out China completely and decide, you know what, we're going to cut off relations. Would it be an economic disaster for us?
Disaster would cost, Britain has gone through Brexit. It has high costs, but they still survive. China represents maybe about 8% of our trade. So it's a cost. We have, for example, we've seen pork plants now closing in Quebec. China is a major market for Canadian pork. So in certain particular areas, certain sectors will suffer. It's a major outlet for seafood, for pork, and other commodities, and the other kinds of commodities that we sell to China. What it probably means is that we will probably have to compete only on price, which is to say we'll have to give the Chinese the best price if we want them to buy our stuff.
Right. Jeremy, really appreciate your perspective on this. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that is Professor Jeremy Paltiel from Carleton University helping us break down the latest in Canada-China relations. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
All I wanted was to see a movie. One down, please.
I can't sell downstairs tickets to you people.
How dare they? I could afford to buy the more expensive ticket. I run my own business. But they refused to take my money. They left me there all night. On what charge? They said I didn't pay the theater tax. But it was really about color.
Sister Desmond, appeal this conviction and your community will stand behind you.
Do you have any idea what this will do to us?
So what are you going to do? Make it right.
Viola Desmond's case inspired Nova Scotia's civil rights movement. She was pardoned 63 years later based on the injustice of her conviction.
What is it?
Anxiety disorder.
Depression.
Clear. PTSD.
1 in 2
of this show, and of course on City News in general, is local issues. And we've been talking a lot. We just went through a campaign, and one of the biggest things in talking in that campaign is keeping our green spaces and making sure that they're well maintained. We are very fortunate to have some beautiful green spaces in and around the Ottawa region, and even in the core of our city. And one of those parks is St. Luke's Park. And here to talk more about it, I'm joined by Zach Ulen, who is a Centertown resident. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, Zach, for people that aren't familiar with this park, sort of give us the location of it, and just describe the park itself and the amenities that you have there at St. Luke's.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a relatively small park in I guess it'd be the southeast corner of downtown. It's bordered by Elgin Street on one side, Cartier on the other, and in between Frank and Gladstone. So it's about a city block long. You've got a variety of facilities and amenities in there. There's a field house in the middle of it. You've got really well-used basketball courts, kids' wading pool, kids' play equipment, tennis courts on the other side, and then in just about the center of it, there is what used to be the green space or the grassy field of the park.
Yes, and you say used to be, and that's what brings us to having you on the show today, because the community is quite disappointed in what's happened to that green space. Describe what's gone on.
Sure. So basically what's happened is the City of Ottawa, working with the Jack Purcell Recreation Association, has installed some outdoor exercise equipment without notice or consultation to the public. Essentially, around October 13th, a digger showed up, started ripping into the topsoil, digging down, and then over the coming weeks, the equipment went up, and to our surprise, and since then we've been trying to piece together what happened and how this could have happened without any public consultation.
What have you managed to piece together so far?
Sure. So the timeline looks like the installation is basically the end of a 2-year process. So back in fall of 2020, it's our understanding that the Jack Purcell Recreation Association, or JPRA, they basically had a proposal, or they came up with the idea to install outdoor exercise equipment in St. Luke's Park. So they went to the city and they did a proposal for a grant, and this was ultimately accepted. The JPRA did get endorsement from the Centretown Community Association for this project, and then the city, they went through a design process, and then the city was supposed to start construction in May of this year, happened in fall when it went up, and all along this 2-year period, no public consultation, nothing meaningful shared with the public on the project. So complete surprise when it just started getting thrown up in the middle of this grassy field.
Zach, what can you tell us about the Jack Purcell Recreation Association? Is that I imagine, that's a city-run association, or is it a private public association?
Yeah, as I understand it, it's its own organization that works in concert with the city. I can't say I know the organization very well, but they basically operate a community center in downtown Ottawa. And I'm not trying to bash the JPRA or anything. They do great programming. They provide great services to the community. My goal here is not to be negative about them or anything like that. But yeah, so one of the ideas, one of the programs, one of the thoughts that they had in the fall of 2020, particularly when COVID was in full swing, was creating an outdoor exercise space for residents. They ultimately landed on the grassy field because it was perceived as small, empty, and unused, and then decided that would be the spot for the equipment, which then entered the proposal and the city agreed with.
How is that green space used?
Yeah. So that's one of the issues that I have, is that I live directly across from the park. I literally see that green space every single day when I look out the window, and it is used. And so I've looked at the project proposal, and that's a real concern I have about the project proposal, which is that the space is used all the time. I've seen people playing volleyball. You see soccer quite often. There's people doing picnics. There's people just doing kid parties. I've seen pickleball over there. There's people who go out with a chair, sit in the sun, read a book. There's people who do CrossFit activities in the winter. There's people who do snowball fights, snowmen, snow fort. It used to be a multi-seasonal space used by a wide variety of the community. Now it's essentially, its use has been greatly diminished into largely a single-use space. For what used to be, I think one thing that's important to note is this is essentially like one of the few green spaces in Centretown, which is awarded with one of the fewest, with the lowest number of green space in the city. So for a lot of people, if you're familiar with Centretown homes, they're like mine is a postage stamp. Like I've got virtually nothing.
Yeah. So I know exactly where you live. So just your description, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So these green spaces are really important, and it's so disheartening to have seen one removed without any consultation with the public before this action was taken. And this is a park with a long history of consultations. This is I was part of consultations back in 2006, 2007 about when there was a discussion about removing the grassy field and putting moving the basketball court to it. And the community said, no, we want this. Like, this is important to us. And then there was a consultation in 1997. There were ones following the 2007 consultations, 2013, 2015. There's been all kinds of consultations, naming the tennis courts, putting art up in the park, in a corner of the park. Like, this park has a long history of consultations. That's part of what makes this so surprising.
Yeah.
Is just what's changed. And it's disturbing in the sense because it's like, if the city is not going to engage a public consultation on this, are they going to do this in other parks in other areas where they're just going to come in and install something without asking the residents and the stakeholders, what do you want? What do you need? How do you want this space to be used? And that's a big concern for me.
Yeah, this is a real head scratcher because, as you said, without public consultation, how do you even come up with the concept of, oh, I think this particular park and this particular community and neighborhood would love to have sort of this style of workout area instead of green space? Well, are you making that decision based on your own opinion? Like that bothers me. That's like, I often say that in television and radio. I'm not just going to do content that I'm interested in. I have to do content that, a variety of people are going to be interested in. And so just thinking about this. So you've reached out to find out why there was no public consultation. What have you heard back?
So we have had some meetings with and some discussions. We have had some with the city and with the JPRA. And so our understanding of the situation, I came out of a meeting, Zoom meeting with the city, that they felt that the Centertown Community Association, or CCA, the CCA's endorsement was sufficient to cover the community's views on the situation.
Really?
It's worth noting the CCA. We've been in touch with the CCA, and they've been great. They've been really, really good to deal with. I have no bones to pick with the CCA, but they have let us know they had 48 hours to endorse the project or not when it was sent to them, and they were quite upfront with saying they did a very limited consultation. Like, they checked with a handful of their members who lived in the area. I don't think anybody lived immediately across from the park like I do, and that was and then they voted to endorse the project. So it kind of gets back to the point that you made, I think, is that only a very limited number of people have been involved who I guess thought it was a good idea. But just unfortunately, at no point did anyone seem to have said, wait, we need to check the other stakeholders. And it's a head scratcher for me, too. I don't get it. I don't get why this step would not have been taken.
I'm just running out of time here, Zach. Want to know what can listeners do? If they want to help with what are you asking for? Are you asking for a reversal now? To remove
I'm asking for a public consultation, and that is what I want. So if listeners want to do something, contact Ariel Troster, the new councillor for Somerset Ward 14, and say we need a public consultation on on what's going to happen with the green space. I want a public consultation. I want the city to abide by the results of that consultation and to not make this kind of change again without public consultation.
Zach, appreciate the time and your passion on this one. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Derek.
My pleasure. Again, that is Zach Hewlin, a Centertown resident, lives directly across from St. Luke's Park. And if you want to find out more information, by the way, you can visit SaveStLukesPark.blogspot.com. They tell you how to submit a complaint to the city as well. It's very detailed, and it goes over some of the sort of the historical public consultations as well that St. Luke's Park has had over the years, dating back to 1997. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Once upon a time in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talk.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef,
we're going to be making creme brulee, a risotto with wild-caught salmon, lemon, and fresh herbs, and my favorite mista salad.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Traffic and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 18th. Good morning, rather. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -5. In Smith Falls, it is -2. And here's what's making news this hour. An unprecedented surge at CHEO has other hospitals across Ottawa stepping up to help now following a directive issued by Ontario Health. All youth aged 16 and older requiring emergency care or admission to an inpatient unit will be redirected to other acute care hospitals in the region, including the Ottawa Hospital, the Queensway Carlton, or Montfort Hospital. Now, CHEO President Alex Munter says the surge of patients the hospital is seeing is unprecedented. And moving forward, they are looking for the support of the community as they work through the backlog of care. Munter says with where things are at the hospital right now, they're hoping for the best, but planning for the very worst. And breaking news from Parliament Hill, where the federal government has announced that a big shipment of children's Tylenol and Advil is on the way. This comes amid an ongoing shortage nationwide. Now, after next week, more than 1 million bottles of the medications will have entered Canada to supply hospitals, community pharmacies and retailers. So expect the medication to start appearing on store shelves early next week. Health Canada says that the country is still trying to track down other alternatives and more foreign shipments. The Help Santa Toy Parade is back tomorrow for the first in-person parade since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Help Santa Toy Parade is partnering with Toy Mountain to provide toys to families in the Ottawa area so that all children can open a gift on Christmas morning. The parade starts in front of City Hall on Laurier Avenue, turning south on Bank Street and ending at Lansdowne Park. Firefighters will be out at the parade collecting unwrapped gifts, toys and cash along the parade route. City News time is 11:33. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. Sam will be back on Monday. We continue to talk healthcare, and for good reason. For good reason. We talked to Dr. Rose Zacharias a little bit earlier on in the show. She's leading a group of doctors heading to Queen's Park to put forward some solutions when it comes to our healthcare system, which, you know, has being described as being in a crisis situation. Even prior to the pandemic, people were describing it as that. Joining me now to talk more about some health data improvements and issues, I'm joined by Dr. Ewan Affleck, Senior Medical Advisor from Health Information. Dr. Affleck, welcome to the show.
How are you doing, Dad?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk about some of these recommendations. The Pan-Canadian Health Data Strategy recommendations has come out with a number of things. Let's touch on a few of these. Maybe you could just give us an overview of what this Pan-Canadian Health Data Strategy is exactly, Dr. Affleck.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that. And I'll just clarify who I'm speaking on behalf. So I'm a member of the expert advisory group of the Pan-Canadian Health Data Strategy, which was a group commissioned by the federal government to look at health data. I'm also a physician, and I do my clinical work in Northwest Territories in Yellowknife as an acute care hospital, so people understand the context.
I appreciate that.
To answer your question, first of all, when we say health data, probably a lot of listeners will be like falling asleep. Like, what? Like, who cares?
We're not going to allow them to do that, Dr. Affleck.
No, we'll try not to allow them. But just let me explain. So
Please.
This is people's health information, the information about their lab tests, about their history, about their family history, about everything that is their allergies, everything that is pertinent to them. And so what's important to understand in any discussion of this is that every decision we make as physicians, nurses, pharmacists, all the healthcare providers, as well as health researchers, public and population health people, governments, so forth, is predicated we rely upon health information and data to inform those decisions. And if we don't have it, the likelihood of us making an error or a mistake increases. So then it becomes very important to everyone that your health data is available to the person who's providing your care.
Right. And I think I recall, just reading some of what you've said about this situation is that this sort of cohesion and use of health data in Canada is legislated to fail. Can you expand on that for me and what you mean by that?
Yeah, and this is actually reflected in one of our reports, and that's sort of a catchphrase, but it grabs people's attention. So there's a problem in Canada, and that's why our group was commissioned to study this, and that is that health data, people's information, is very fragmented. And so if you go to your GP or you go to a community hospital or you go to a specialist service or whatever, your information in many places in Canada, although it differs from location to location, is sort of fragmented. So it doesn't necessarily follow you. And that's a problem. So health information is not designed around people, and you hope when you go to the emergency room all your information will be there, but there is absolutely no guarantee that is so. And as I stated at the outset, then errors can be made. Now, if you look at the root cause of that, there's custodial legislation, and this is in our second report, and I'll try to make this understandable, but basically health physicians, pharmacists, health authorities, hospitals are in legislation, and it differs from province to territory to province, are obliged to keep that information, keep it secure, and so have built information systems around that. So there is less of and so what happens then is that the information ends up in those silos and is fragmented, and so then it does not follow people to where they might happen to be when they require care. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does make sense. What are some of the recommendations? What are some of the solutions to help fix this problem?
Yeah, The solutions are, and this is happening all over the world. I mean, there's a whole long story here about how we came to be in this place. But the solutions are that there can be standards that allow people's information, which is largely now digital. It's not paper-based in most situations, although there is still paper-based information. But we need it to follow individual Canadians from location to location, from health service to health service. And there are standards. There are data standards that can allow that information to be exchanged between these different services, between your local pharmacy and your community clinic and the hospital and so forth. So this would require cooperation from all the different custodians and governments and so forth, and health authorities and professional groups to say, well, why don't we agree on a set of standards that we can exchange the data across these platforms?
So is the biggest hurdle here money? You know, at the end of the day, you have to build this sort of data infrastructure, right? That you're able to share all the information, and of course, you know, that certainly that costs a lot of money, I imagine. Is that part of the reluctance that we're seeing?
No, I don't. You know, it's a structural problem, and what's important to understand is no one is to blame here. We always want to say, well, it's this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
Certainly there is an investment required, but we've invested billions of dollars in health information technology in Canada. But what we have looked at less, so we invested in technology, but we did not update our public policy in our governance around health data. So there's a mismatch, as I said, between how we govern data and the rules around it and the technology.
I see.
So we really need to. So a lot of this is about cooperation around common standards. Cooperation is sort of a way of being, and it doesn't cost anything. But we first have to understand collectively between the professions, the health workforce, the governments, the researchers, all of us need to sit down and say, okay, we've got a collective problem here, and together we can solve it. So yes, this will take some investment, but these standards are being adopted all over the world, and there's very good work in Canada on them, but we just have to agree to begin moving in that direction.
So how do you get all those players together? How do you get an agreement that you're going to get all the players sitting at a table so that we can finally have this discussion and come up with the standards?
So there are some really good examples of work underway, and some of which I'm involved in. In Alberta, we are using a model called collective impact, which brings everyone to the table, and we are agreeing on common standards. And the other important players, which I haven't mentioned here, but probably the most important, are, of course, patients, the beneficiaries of care, all average Canadians. We need to have the public at the table for all these discussions, because that's our ultimate accountability, as well as First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, because there are issues of data sovereignty there that are very important. So there are models, there is work underway, and we just need to grow this. So, and you know, I won't go into all the details, but I feel quite confident that this can be done. But and we really need to do it. You know, as you said at the outset, you know, the Canadian healthcare system is in crisis. Things are not healthy. You know, I go on call next week in Yellowknife, and there is burnout, there are issues, and when you're working in an environment where you're not confident you have all the information to take care of the patient, it doesn't feel very good.
Well, and I can just, you know, share a little bit of my personal experience, Dr. Affleck, is, you know, I have a wonderful doctor. They're in a clinic and share space, but honestly, the technology in that building, in that clinic, I mean, it's archaic. It really, I'm almost shocked. And what my family doctor has to do just on her own in the time that she has to spend just in administration, because she's got to fill out these pull down menus and fill in all these fields. I mean, that's got to be part of the problem as well, right?
Yes, there's a lot of
the technology's
and
terrible.
Most of you yourself, Derek, and other Canadians can tell similar stories. And then for those of us on the other side, your family doctor is probably frustrated working in this environment. We all are. And then that's contributing to the burnout that we're seeing. And as you said, this problem wasn't caused by COVID. And there's, in fact, a lot of research that shows that health information technology and fragmented information is a significant contributor to burnout for the health workforce. And the analogy I make is if you have a pilot flying a plane and you say, okay, we're going to turn off half your instruments because you're not going to get all the information.
Right.
You know, how does that pilot feel? Well, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And how good is that for the passengers in the back? Well, it's not good at all because the likelihood of an accident happening increases. And the people who own the plane, the company, which in the healthcare analogy would be the government, it's not good for them losing planes and having people burnt out and so forth. So this isn't good for any of us. It's no one's fault. We just need to sit down and figure this out.
Yeah, very well said, Dr. Affleck, and I really thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, Derek, thank you. I really appreciate it. You take care.
Thank you. You as well. That's Dr. Ewan Affleck. Just great to get that perspective and a better understanding, because that's the frustration so often that we hear is the sharing of health data and how difficult it is and how difficult we've made it, really. I'm going to go a little bit on the lighter side. Coming up after this break, Keith Whittier. Going to be talking a little movies. One of my favorite segments on Sam's show. I always listen in because Keith will tell you sometimes what to watch and sometimes what not to watch. So we'll be back with Keith right after this. This is Derek Fage filling in. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, local country band Lemoncast joining us on the show. A fantastic band. If you've never heard of them, we're really excited to introduce you to them. We'll tell you about one of their upcoming shows and, of course, catch up with them, find out what they've been doing over the summer months. And we'll also tell you about an Ottawa-born dancer that was recently recognized by none other than Janet Jackson. Oh, yeah, I said Janet Jackson. All that and more on Friday's Daytime Ottawa.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough, and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me.
As possible, Keith Whittier joining us, movie reviewer. Keith, welcome. How are you this morning?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Doing great as well. Really appreciate the time as usual. Let's, as I said, dive right in. We're going to start with our first one. It is called She Said.
Why is sexual harassment so pervasive and so hard to address? Let's interrogate the whole system.
Hi, my name is Jody Cantor. I'm an investigative reporter for the New York Times.
What have you got?
I was told that the wrongdoing in Hollywood is overwhelming.
I don't want to be quoted. Period.
Understood.
In your previous stories,
How did you persuade women to tell you what had happened to them?
The case I made was, I can't change what happened to you in the past, but together we may be able to help protect other people.
the truth, basically.
Keith, this sounds really, really good. Tell me about this.
This is a fantastic movie. So it tells the tale of Jody Cantor and Rebecca Toohey, journalists with the New York Times, who really broke the story on Harvey Weinstein. Now, we've seen a couple of movies over the past few years that do center around the Me Too movement, and Bombshell comes to mind, where that was a movie that really talked about the culture over at Fox News and dealt with the women specifically. This kind of takes it from a different approach, where we're looking at the journalists who are trying to do everything they can to uncover the story. And I think that Zoe Kazan and Carey Mulligan do a fantastic job as the two leads in this film. I saw it last night. I thought it was very gripping, very emotional, a very strong movie, and I definitely recommend it. It's probably one of the better movies of the year.
Yeah, I mean, even before we had our chat, I saw some of the just some of the other reviews, and everything that I've seen so far, people are just raving about this film. I cannot wait to see it. Well, let's move on to our next film. It's being described as a horror comedy. Here is the menu.
Good evening. Welcome to Hawthorne. It'll be our pleasure to feed you.
Tonight will be magical.
Over the next few hours, you will ingest fat, salt, protein, and at times entire ecosystems.
We're eating the ocean. We're eating the ocean.
Are you crying?
It's just I find it all very moving.
So it's okay that I'm not as into this as you are. Oh my God.
You shouldn't be here tonight.
Oh boy, tell me about this. What did you think of this? I'm not sure. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but I've heard some good reactions from people.
Here at the Toronto International Film Festival. So this is from Mark Mylod, who I guess is behind the show Succession. And I guess because I'm more of a movie guy than a TV guy. This is very much a dark comedy. So we've got a bunch of people who are willing to spend over $1,200 a plate to go to this destination dining experience.
Okay.
And this is something that foodies will really, pardon the pun, eat up. This is one of those films that was really good because Ray Fiennes is so good in this movie. He plays chef who is at this elaborate place called Hawthorne, where they create these very unique dining experiences. But what the guests don't know is he knows a little more about them than they would like, and it just kind of creates this very interesting satire. The movie is really well done. One of the things I really loved about it, Derek, is the fact that it's just so original. We see so many films that are just like copies and retellings and reboots. This is very, very unique, and it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, it interested me, immediately. And as you said, Ralph Fiennes, just an excellent actor to begin with. And this just seems to suit him so well, doesn't it? This role?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the great things about that is that we've got a main character here who's very whose sarcasm is very, very subtle. You know, he's not the type of person you usually catch smiling, but he just delivers this role, just again, food pun, so deliciously. It's just such a great film. I can't help it.
I know, I love it. I love it. Keep it going. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is called Stay the Night.
I wanted to follow up about the associate position.
You are more reserved, Grace. And sometimes that reserve comes across as standoffish.
I'm standoffish.
You didn't get it.
We're going out for drinks tonight to celebrate if you want to come.
Thanks, Rashawn. But I have plans.
This is what you do, Grace. You like a guy, and then you get to know him just long enough to not like him anymore, so you don't have to date him.
You're Carter Stone. Hey, why didn't you play tonight? What happened?
Keith, am I right? This was filmed on the streets of Toronto, this film?
A nice Canadian movie. It had its premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival, getting its release this weekend. It tells the story of Grace and Carter. Grace is working in business, and she's trying to go for a promotion, and things don't go her way. Carter, on the same night, a hockey player gets some news that he wasn't looking forward to. So they're both at a crossroads, and they end up meeting, believe it or not, organically. No apps required. And it was it's one of the sweet things about this movie is just that it's this really nice dialogue-driven film with Toronto as a backdrop, and we just get to watch them as they get to know each other. And I thought, yes, there's parts of it that are like romantic comedy because there's some comedic elements to it, but there's also like just this very sweet, earnest aspect of like the human connection, and these two people who on paper really shouldn't have a lot in common tend to realize they're more alike than they think. So this is a nice film. It was very well done. I believe the only theater it's playing at in Ottawa is Landmark Canada.
Okay.
So, but again, I always like getting out and supporting Canadian films. So Stay the Night, definitely worth a watch.
And nothing wrong with Landmark Canada.
No, not at all. They got some. They take good care out there with those reclining seats.
No, it's my dad's favorite theater. Like he lives in like Centertown. He's like, if we're going to see a movie, we're going to Landmark Canada. And honestly, he goes once a week to see a movie.
Okay.
And that is his favorite theater. And as you said, those recliners. That's exactly why he goes. He loves those recliner seats. Lastly, let's talk about it being the very last episode of. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to play a little 25-second clip. We'll see if people know what I'm talking about here.
You may not think this place is worth saving, but it's worth it to me.
Help me! Come on, jump for it! Come on! Hold the line!
The last ever episode of The Walking Dead, Keith.
I can't believe it. This is a show that I call the most inconsistent show on television because it has its ups, it has its downs. There's some episodes that are just phenomenal award-winning episodes, and then there's some where it's like, did I just give up my hour for that?
Yeah.
Would you know that there's actually like zombie survival courses at universities?
What?
I have a friend who did one remotely because I have a friend who did one. He was just so invested in the show and he just got caught up in it. I'm like, are you expecting this to happen? He's like, well, if it ever does, I'm ready. So this is one of those big series. I think we're like 177 episodes all said and done. So kind of like marking the occasion, I thought we should chat about it. Obviously, I haven't seen it as yet. But it's one of those things where I do feel the show did overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
It's it's like three times the length of a Breaking Bad, just saying. But I'm interested to see how it ends. There's a lot of questions. For me, the big one was always like, how did this whole thing get started? But I'm interested to see if they're going to address anything or if it's just going to kind of feel like, a simple finale, or if it might be something like a 6 Feet Under where we're talking about the ending of it for years to come. So, but I'm in. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I went through the first, I think, 2.5 seasons, Keith. Yeah. And then I was like, you're right, because it was a roller coaster ride for me. It's like, oh, that was a really excellent episode. It was moving and, had me jumping out of my seat. And then were some episodes I'm just like, okay, let's just move on. on. Okay, this is the same episode that I saw last week, right?
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of repetition. But now that the last ever episode is here, I have to see, like you said, there's so many unanswered questions. I have to watch it.
Yeah, and pretty quickly into the show, it stopped being about the zombies, and for myself, it was more about how we treat each other, like as humans, especially when there's like no law and order in place, and kind of watching like the whole human dynamic and the power struggle and things of that nature. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's definitely going to go down as a very good show. I don't think it's, for me personally, it's not in the conversation of like greatest show, but I respect the longevity of it. But I'm very interested to see how the plane lands this Sunday night.
We're on the same page with this one. Keith, thanks so much for joining us again. Always appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you as well. That's Keith Whittier, movie reviewer. She Said, The Menu, and Stay the Night, and of course, last ever episode of The Walking Dead. Looking forward to that. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. We'll be right back here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrival Live smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivallive.org to find out more. Arrival Live. Drive sober.
Here we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef,
We're going to be making creme brulee, a risotto with wild-caught salmon, lemon, and fresh herbs, and my favorite mista salad.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 18th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -5. In Smith Falls, it is -2. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. An unprecedented surge of patients at CHEO has other hospitals in the region stepping up to help. Now, CHEO CEO Alex Monte saying they are experiencing a never-before-seen number of young kids and children suffering from viral conditions that require hospital admission.
But the gap between where we were and where we need to be is significant. This is decades in the making, and the crunch time is now. And we are, of course, for the sake of babies and young children, hoping for the best, but we are planning for the worst.
Ontario Health has instructed that all youth over the age of 16 requiring emergency care or admission to an inpatient unit will be redirected to other acute care hospitals in the region, including the Ottawa Hospital, Queensway Carleton, or the Montfort. Meanwhile, this will be a big relief for parents who have been scrambling for pain medication for their kids. Canada is expecting major shipment of foreign supplies of the meds to arrive next week. City News parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has the story.
3 proposals to import foreign supplies of infant and children acetaminophen and ibuprofen have now been approved, and Dr. Supriya Sharma with Health Canada says shipments are already starting to arrive.
After next week, more than 1 million bottles of product will have entered Canada to supply hospitals, community pharmacies, and retailers, and medications will start appearing on store shelves starting early next week.
But Dr. Sharma could not give a breakdown of how many bottles of the pain meds are destined for stores and how many are heading directly to hospitals. The reason Canada has faced this shortage while many other countries like the U.S. don't have the same problem, well, officials say it was a perfect storm of an early spike in respiratory illnesses at a time pharmaceutical companies would normally be working to try and replenish stock ahead of the flu season. The recent surge of patients at children's hospitals has been blamed by some medical professionals in part due to the lack of fever-reducing medications like Tylenol or Advil. For weeks, parents have been struggling to find pain and fever medications, some even trying to buy some from the U.S. out of desperation. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Now your weather forecast.
We've got cold wind chill values to deal with again today. Some flurries at times could accumulate as well to a centimeter or two. The guaranteed high +1, -7 for the low. More flurries possible for the weekend. 2 degrees tomorrow, just -2 on Sunday, and some light snow possible Monday. For today, the guaranteed high +1.
I am Damilola Onime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. As mentioned off the top, Sam is off today, but she will be back Monday. This is Derek Fage, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV. I'm filling in for Sam. By the way, you can tune in to Daytime at 2 p.m. You're watching on Rogers TV right now. I'll be back in the same outfit at 2 p.m. on Daytime. We have a great show for you lined up there. But we continue to have a great show for you here on the Sam Laprade Show. It is time for Lunch with Derek. And joining me is former City Councilor Alex Cullen. Good afternoon, Alex.
Good afternoon, Derek. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Winter has arrived.
It has.
Yes, well, so I'm getting my skis ready.
Excellent. Oh, happy to hear it. See, you're embracing the winter weather. I love to hear that. And Jody Minnick, also former city councilor, joining us. How are you, Jody?
Awesome, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm doing great.
Good to be on the radio with you.
Great to be here.
Hey, you know, I didn't put this on the list, but let's talk about the weather. Alex, you of course, are you a cross country or a downhill skier?
Both.
Oh, good.
The fact that we have Gatineau Park and all the ski trails in and around the city just makes cross country so much more accessible. My mother came to this country from Europe, and she said, if we're going to be in Canada and face 4 months, 5 months of winter, we better learn to enjoy it. So that's what I've learned to do.
I love it. What about you, Jody? Do you embrace the winter?
Oh, I love winter. One of the things that drives me nuts is listening to people complain about winter. It's like, because it happens every year, you know? And I love like snowshoeing across country. When I had legs, it was great. And we did it a lot in the Army. Being outside is just part of the job. So you're in my office right now. I'm out on my front porch watching the world go by and talking to you guys.
Lovely. I love it. My wife is former military as well. She was infantry. And a lot of,
I like her already.
Yeah, a lot of great stories.
What regiment?
Grenadier Guards out of Montreal.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like those guys.
Turns out that when I was at university, I did the change in the guard on Parliament Hill, and of course, I was with the Governor General Foot Guards. But the other regiment was the Grenadier Guards.
Yeah, my wife was there. My wife was one of the Foot Guards as well.
Here, I had no idea.
Well, that was a long time ago. They use university students. They train us at Connaught Ranges and then up at Petawawa. And then we spend the summer marching up and down in front of Parliament and at the Governor General's residence.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Awesome. I didn't realize that they had university students doing that in training. That's very cool. Very cool.
It was fun.
Look what you learn here on Lunch with Derek. I love this. Let's talk about a couple of things here. Twitter. What? So I kind of joked last night. I came home, I was curling, and I come home and I just, I go into my death scrolling, and Twitter's usually the one I do that with, and I just see everybody all of a sudden, goodbye. If, I was wonderful meeting everybody. I mean, this looks like a true meltdown, and I'm not really sure I'm upset about it. What do you think, Jody?
I'm with you, man. I think this is an example of free market economy meeting politics, and it's the company's changing directions. Somebody's taking another direction. I mean, they've laid off, they said 75% of the staff, and they still have thousands to go. Like, how many people do you need to run a chat board with AI? Like, I don't know. To me, it just sounds like the market's sorting itself out, and that politics are learning a lesson as well.
What do you think, Alex? You're on Twitter?
Well, yes, I'm on Twitter. I follow journalists, I follow pundits, I follow politicians, follow community events here at the city and at the province, it's been a good service for me to gather information, to put out different points of view. There was a tweet put out by Elon Musk. He says, "How to make a small fortune in social media? Start out with a big fortune." And I thought that was a little appropriate here, but I'm kind of disturbed. Here was a service that was working. People were using it. I can understand someone coming in with a different business model, but it seems to be imploding. It seems that...
I don't agree with that.
Well, it certainly is imploding with the loss of personnel. In fact, Elon Musk had to put out a call to his head of security. He fired the head of security and then had to call him up and say, well, look, we'd like to get back into the buildings. So, I mean, there's something weird going on there. Hopefully it can recover. I mean, I don't mind changing direction and all that stuff. I think Jody makes a good point about the market. But it really does feel as if someone has put their foot into it, and the only person I can think of is Elon Musk. But we'll find out. I don't think the story's done.
Sorry, guys, I should add that my old account that was verified was eliminated during the 2019 hubbub that they had on social media. So maybe I'm a bit biased towards the company. But I also just believe, people can say what they want. And, you don't need to be 97% Democrat to agree with other people.
No, I don't disagree with you. I use it much like, Alex just described it, where I follow a lot of people in the news. And of course, I follow any friends or family that's on there. It's a great way to, breaking news happens, and Twitter seems to be a great way to pick up, sort of breaking news. But other than that,
appeal.
What's that?
It lost that appeal at some point.
I think it has. It's
the
just
culture
gotten
wars when Trump was president. It just did, and it doesn't matter. That too is the market expressing itself the way that it wants to. Right? It's almost like free market politics to me in a way, and that's fine. It's just the game and how it's played.
I think, though, there's still a desire for people to follow, certain news sources. I mean, I follow a wide range from local to international, and that service I think people still want, including the pundits that accompany that. So if it's not done by Twitter, it's going to be done by somebody else, and people seem to be migrating to Mastodon. I haven't yet.
No, I haven't
as long
either.
as Twitter is still working and I'm getting what I'm looking for, I'll be happy with that. The other stuff that Jody talks about, which is, the debates amongst each other, you get the same thing on Facebook. And, that's fine for people who want to indulge in that. But my use of Twitter is from organizations, really, telling me the news of what's happening at Queen's Park, what's happening at Parliament Hill, what's happening across the world. And that's still useful.
Sorry, Jody, what were you saying there?
Alex he likes to be told things, right? He doesn't seem to want to participate. That's all. I don't understand why people.
I
don't understand why people don't want to just. It's a public display board. It's free to use. You don't have to pay to use it, right?
Yeah, for sure, Jody. But I understand what you mean by, it's free to debate. It's just, for me, what drives me crazy is, you can be so anonymous, and now people are just...
the biggest problem.
Yeah, exactly. Able to say whatever the heck they want. You've got people with 0 followers that jump in and say disgusting and vile things, and there's no consequences.
It happens to you, it's the worst. And it's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to Alex, and it doesn't have to happen if they're bots. And that's the biggest sticking point with Elon. He's like, I'm buying a $55 billion company, and half the accounts are probably bots and not even real.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out if Twitter survives this reorganization. Let's be charitable, call it a reorganization. I think there's a market for this kind of service. The debate
for sure.
I mean, totally. And Jody, believe you me, I'm no stranger to debate. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. But it's certainly shaking up the world. If you were quite right saying last night, here's everyone saying goodbye. I think that may be a bit premature, but if it goes, okay, something will replace it.
Yeah, and let's be honest. There's been social media things that we thought would probably last forever. You remember Vine and MySpace, right?
Totally.
There was Friendster. I remember at one point. There was a few that I think we all thought were so big that they would never die.
Well, it evolves quickly, and certainly what Elon Musk is doing. I mean, one wonders when he says, how to start out with a small fortune, start with a big one. Yeah, he must be thinking twice about the $44 billion that he put into this.
No kidding.
At the end of the day, it
he
disappears.
Overpaid.
Oh, yeah, totally overpaid. He got himself stuck, and I mean...
he can afford it, so what?
Well, sure. Yeah. The ego's so big, though, he's not going to admit that it was a mistake. That's for... Okay, we've got some other topics to cover.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a quick break here, guys, and we'll be back talking to the two of you, Alex Cullen and Jody Minnick, joining me for lunch with Derek here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
Monsieur de Champlain, when I finish paddling through this wilderness and reach China, I shall greet them wearing this.
Monsieur Nicolet, your mission shall be for the honor of the king and the Holy Faith.
In the summer of 1634, Jean Nicolet set off from Quebec to find a trade route that would link Europe and North America with China.
But where is it? Further, I know the place you are seeking.
For months, Nicolet pushed through the wilderness, searching for the Western Sea.
Goja, Mississippi!
What did he say? He says, Mississippi, great water. Mississippi, the sea, China.
Jean Nicolet was wrong. It was Lake Michigan, not the Pacific. But others would follow his dream. Joliet, La Salle, the La Vérendrye's, and they would map most of North America from the Rockies to the Gulf of Mexico.
I am Audrey. And I'm Leah. Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amps allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Sam. It is Lunch with Derek. We continue our conversation with Alex Cullen and Jody Middick. And let's turn our attention to the World Cup in Qatar. The latest news just to come out, literally 48 hours basically before, or 72 hours, I guess I should say, before the first match, which is on Sunday. And they've announced that there will be no booze sold. And, that's just to the peasants like you and I, Alex and Jody, the wealthy ticket holders that are in the luxury boxes. They'll still get to enjoy top shelf booze and wine, but if you want a beer at the World Cup, it's a no-go. What do you make of this, Alex?
Well, if you're British, you're certainly going to miss the beer. That's a fact. But I've been to soccer games in Britain, and sometimes you wonder whether there should be some restriction on the amount of alcohol that's consumed, because it can get very, very rowdy. And I think that's what they're worried about, is rowdyism. It's not just British hooliganism, but other places as well. So even though, you and I going to a football game here or a soccer game here might enjoy a beer, in those environments where you have very strong partisans for different countries, you don't want to fuel things with alcohol. And so it might be a wise decision. Don't forget it's a Muslim country as well.
Yes.
So that's another factor. But, for us over here, nothing's stopping us from popping a brew, but there might be a little different.
What do you think, Jody?
Pretty much word for word what Alex said.
Interesting.
I've spent time in Islamic countries during Ramadan and stuff during the war, and they don't take kindly to that kind of stuff. They just don't. And, it's a monarchy as well. So, and as Alex pointed out, some people literally murder each other over soccer games, and booze never helps. And those, it's a passionate game for them. And I can see why the monarchy would take that step of control in that moment.
I just wonder if the anger is going to be worse taking it away than having it there. I don't know.
Well, they'll definitely lose some sales, but they'll have a good soccer game.
Yeah, so people are there for the game. Yes, they certainly would enjoy a drink, but it's a trade-off. And can you not enjoy the game without being boozed up? Well, I think you can.
Well, you can, sure. But what do you make of, if you're in a luxury box, you can still drink?
Yes, well,
you got to pay the shilling if you want to do the crime, right? You got to pay the toll.
Well, yeah.
You know what the average ticket price is, by the way, guys, for the World Cup?
Tell us.
£1,400. That's the average price.
That's quite expensive. Imagine what these luxury boxes are. I'm watching on TV. I'm going to enjoy the World Cup and root for Canada. Hope that we'll get somewhere. It's going to be interesting, and particularly in Qatar with the climate that they have there. That's going to be a real challenge. And consider, it's not a good idea to drink a lot of booze in really hot weather, and it's going to be hot weather anyway. So let's hope the players do well.
All right, let's talk. Continue talking a little sports. A different kind of football is happening here in Canada, and that is the Grey Cup. Will you be watching, Jody?
I'll be honest with you guys. This is the first sports question. I haven't been tracking the Grey Cup this year. I've been busy with some stuff with the kids and just some personal stuff. So I don't even know who's playing, to be honest.
I do.
Who's playing, Alex? Tell him.
Yeah, so it's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers playing against the Toronto Argonauts. It's in Regina. I follow the CFL. I also follow the NFL, but the CFL is, quite frankly, in my opinion, very exciting because you just never know what's going to happen in a CFL game. I'm a Montreal Alouette fan.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I'm enjoying the fact the Red Black. Well, hey.
I'm just kidding, Alex.
The Alouettes made it to the Eastern Final.
They did.
The Red Blacks did not. Not a good year for the Red Blacks.
It's terrible.
And I go to Frank Clair Stadium down at Lansdowne to watch the Red Blacks play the Alouettes. It's our tradition. You talk about banning booze in Qatar. I tell you, Seagram's does very well at Grey Cup games because it's cold.
Oh, yeah.
Cold in Regina.
Yeah.
But I'll be watching. It's on the Sunday at 6, and I'll be rooting. It's going to be very hard for me to root for Toronto over Winnipeg, but I think Winnipeg's going to take the game.
Yeah, I do too.
They've had such a stellar season.
Yeah, just an amazing season. Their starting quarterback back, and just an amazing defense on that Winnipeg. That'll be 3 in a row if they win. Let's talk something a little more local here, and that is the effects of Bill 23. You're both former city councilors. Jody, what do you make of Bill 23, this More Homes Built Faster plan?
I think it's long overdue. I
Okay.
mean, I hope if they had announced it at the, I don't remember who was in government when we announced the housing crisis at the city. I believe it may have been Kathleen Wynne. I can't remember. Like, if we're in a crisis, we're in a crisis, and crisis situations require extreme solutions, you know. But with the but there, the environmental situation and the green, you know, everybody's concerns do matter at the same time. So I don't disagree with people pushing back in areas where they feel there needs to be more protections and oversight. That's not a big deal to me. That's part of politics, how it works. But we absolutely positively need these housing units built as quickly as possible, and we got to find the solutions.
Alex, what do you think?
I'm happy the provincial government is willing to talk, numbers and put them out there and then debate.
Yeah, I feel much the same way as you, Jody. How about you, Alex?
Well, if only the legislation actually produced more housing. And the problem is it facilitates developers, but it is pushing a string here. For example, the idea of cutting back on development charges, which is a cost of buying a house. But the development charges pay for the infrastructure that the roads, the sewers, et cetera, that support a new community. Yeah. And if we just had a municipal election here in Ottawa where people ran on 2.5%, 3% tax increases, they're not going to double those taxes to pay for the infrastructure to service new subdivisions. So the notion that you can get rid of development charges, make housing cheaper, but it's going to be a long time before that infrastructure gets out there, because the regular taxpayers aren't just going to pay through the nose for that infrastructure. And then, as Jody said, there's the restrictions on what conservation areas do. Conservation authorities, they're there to protect the floodplains, development going on floodplains. I mean, have people forgotten Hurricane Hazel that killed 43 people in Toronto because there are houses on a floodplain? That's what prompted conservation areas. So there's that, and there's a lot in the bill that upends municipal planning, municipal authority, because developers think municipalities are in the way. Well, they're not in the way. Quite frankly, yeah, not well. Yeah, I
Sorry, I think the pendulum has gone too far. I think the city sometimes gets in the way of business and development all the time.
I agree with that. However,
we wouldn't have a housing crisis.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't blame the municipalities for the housing crisis. Okay. You can't. And here you have a city of Ottawa has come in with an official plan that actually pushes intensification, better use of existing land, and this legislation doesn't help in that regard. So you're seeing a massive pushback. You see the Association of Municipalities. You see but the city's already permitting that in its official plan.
Not 3.
But it's one thing to have it in your official plan, Alex, and it's another thing to actually do it. I mean, that's
legislation doesn't do that. So here's the thing. So here's the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, representing all the municipalities across Ontario, saying this bill is going to cost municipalities $5 billion because you've taken away the revenue that funds provision of infrastructure. That's going to make the government sit up and look. I certainly hope so. They're trying to ram this thing through in 2 weeks.
We're increasing capacity. These people will pay taxes when they move in.
No, but you have to pay for the infrastructure.
I'm just going to jump in here quick because I think Alex is right. I mean, to give the incentive to build affordable housing to be, zero fees, I'm not sure I wanted to go that far. I could certainly see a reduction because...
Did it go that far? I don't know if it went that far.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It is. That's the proposal.
Is it certain areas where it's zero charges? Maybe it's areas that don't need any oversight.
But they need infrastructure.
Greenfield.
So right now, development charges are different. If you're inside the city, because it doesn't cost so much to join existing infrastructure, development charges are much lower. But they're there, and these are provincially regulated. They have to be justifiable for the kind of connection to the infrastructure. So outside the Greenbelt, it's all brand new stuff. Well, if you're expecting the existing to pay for this, well, that's going to be really slow because people aren't going to accept tax increases of 5, 6, 7% simply to fund infrastructure.
Well, I don't disagree on that point.
Yeah. Well, and where do you think developers are going to choose to develop? Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where do you think developers are going to choose to develop? Right. Where they
have to pay for that infrastructure.
Exactly.
And
you need incentive too.
Well, the model has always
I agree
been,
with the incentive. There does need to be some,
but
just
you have
not
to
free.
Make up the money. You have to make up the money. And so this is where the government plan fails, because even though you give an incentive, you still have to pay for that infrastructure. So there's a problem there.
Gentlemen, sorry.
At least they're trying.
I got to cut us off there. Listen, I could talk to you two for the next hour, but
for sure.
But I'm going to get a stare down here if I don't get to the news in just a moment. Thank you both for joining me. Really appreciate the time today.
Pleasure.
It was awesome. Nice to talk to you, Alex. I don't think we talked on council, so good to talk to you.
Well, nice as well. We'll do this again.
Excellent. Sounds good, gentlemen. That is former city councilors Alex Cullen and Jody Middick. This is Derek Fage filling in for Sam Laprade. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name's Ange. I'm from the Angelina Hunter Trio. We will be performing this week as part of Encore Ottawa 3, and we really hope that you enjoy our set.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
For local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 18th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa, -5, in Smith Falls, -1. And here's what's making news this hour. A meeting date has been set for the Public School Board in Ottawa to discuss mandatory masks for students. Trustee Neil Kaplan-Murph said on Twitter that the meeting has been set for Tuesday evening at 6:30. Kaplan-Murph says several members of the recently elected board favor the use of masks in schools to counter the surge of respiratory infections, and that protective measures are about taking care of each other. The motion that will be put forward asks for masks to be mandatory starting November 21st. It also asks that if passed, the requirement lasts until Ottawa Public Health declares flu season over and CHIO's pediatric ICU is at 85% capacity or less for at least 2 weeks. An Ontario's top doctor was spotted at a crowded indoor party in Toronto without a mask on last night. Now, just days after strongly recommending that Ontarians return to wearing masks indoors. The province has not brought back its mask mandate, and Moore said on Monday that he hopes that the province won't have to. City News has reached out to Dr. Moore's office for comments, but has not heard back yet. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam will return on Monday. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in. What does something like the World Cup mean to the hospitality industry? I mean, this is really the biggest sporting event in the world. And many people, they love to gather and watch with other fans. And that's very important to the hospitality industry. Joined by Melanie Correa, Vice President of National Brand Marketing and Culinary Operations at Shoeless Joe's Limited. Welcome to the show, Melanie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? You and your team must be excited about the World Cup.
We are so excited, and we were recently acquired by Foodtastic, so I just wanted to start there.
Okay.
So yeah, not a problem. It's a very recent acquisition back in June of 2022, but Prime Pubs has kind of come on over under the Foodtastic umbrella, and we've become kind of one of the largest franchisors in North America, and we are so excited to be back, to be able to celebrate sports live in our restaurants. I think everyone can attest to the pandemic and being at home, and it's nice to finally get back out with friends and family and celebrate that camaraderie that sports really lends itself to.
Yeah, I mean, what's the economic impact of something like the World? I mean, because this is unlike anything. Certainly you can talk about, the NFL has their big game, but that's one day. The World Cup, it really spans many, many days, and it keeps people's attention for a long time. What does it mean economically for the industry?
I mean, sports is one of those things that people want to view live. They want to come out, they want to celebrate, they want to cheer on their fans, and I think this is the first time in 36 years that Canada has made its way back to the World Cup. And so we are super excited to have and be able to celebrate this with all of our guests in our restaurants. And economically, I mean, it's just another reason to come on out and be part of that experience. Have some great food, have some great drinks, and celebrate sports.
For your restaurants, just across the board, what are you hearing from them as far as the this sort of return from normalcy? After so long, going through a global pandemic, what are you hearing from the restaurants?
Well, our operators are definitely the heroes in all of this. They've had to kind of be subject to what we've all had to do. And we know that just like anybody else, labor has always been and continues to be a challenge for us. It's just one of those things that I think most industries, retail, hospitality, anything that's consumer facing, seems to be struggling with this. So when we get these sports-like opportunities to get people back into our restaurants and give them yet another reason to be there, it does magic and certainly helps us kind of get past that hump that we're trying still to get through with COVID.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I wish you and your entire team and everybody in the industry, a great World Cup. I'm a fan that loves to go out and celebrate and watch sports, with others. So I'll be certainly helping our local restaurant industry personally during this World Cup season. Thanks so much for joining us, Melanie. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you.
All right. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye now. Want to mention too, of course, World Cup kicks off on Sunday. There's just the one match, by the way. So it really starts, next week, and you're going to see some just exciting matches. We went through some of the favorites a little bit earlier on in the show as well, and we'll actually be wrapping up the show with that. But what else is happening in Ottawa? We decided to put together a list of things that are going on. There's a lot of Christmas markets. The Barhaven Farmers Market has a great Christmas market. The market was established back in 2017, so just a great variety of vendors. So that's certainly available. 613 Flea Marketplace in the Aberdeen Pavilion at Lansdowne. So great local business and vendors there on Saturday, the 19th. That is free to go. Saturday, November 19th to Sunday, November 27th. Support local and shop from quality vendors at the Glebe Craft and Artisan Fair. That's going to be happening at the Glebe Community Center. That is also free. And then until this Sunday, you can go out to the One World Bazaar in Manotick Station. If you have not been out there, it is absolutely incredible. Even if you don't end up buying anything, it really is like experiencing the world, because they go out and curate from all around the world some really unique gift ideas that you won't find anywhere else. Also, until December 4th, you can finish your Christmas shopping out there at Watson's Mills. They have their Christmas market out there. For arts and culture and a good time, don't forget, we mentioned earlier on the show, the Help Santa Toy Parade is going on. An unwrapped, brand new toys, what they're looking for. There'll be cash donations. You can tap for a donation this year. Of course, our great firefighters will be out there. You can help by filling the boots as well. The Magic of Lights until January 7th, already going on out there at Wesley Clover Park, so you can check that out. It's great for the entire family to jump in there, and you can get your tickets online as well. There's also the Ottawa Children's Festival Fall into Play Mini Festival at the Canadian War Museum. That's happening Saturday and Sunday, so you can bring the kids, enjoy some creative live performances out there at the Canadian War Museum. The Ottawa Chocolate Show, by the way, is going on. Oh, yes, I said chocolate show. There'll be chocolate makers, chocolatiers, chocolate lovers. Everyone's going to gather. It's sort of a market day. There's seminars, there's tastings, and then, of course, you can buy your favorite chocolates. It's moved to the Nepean Sportsplex. So a bigger venue. So that means, of course, a bigger venue means more chocolate. So get on out there to the Nepean Sportsplex. I had a great interview a little bit earlier on in the week on Daytime Ottawa. Michael Casehammer. He is a fabulous musician, lives out in Vancouver. Amazing performer, excellent pianist. He's got his horn section. This is his biggest tour to date. It's called the Coast to Coast Tour. That is tonight. There may be some tickets available. I believe there's still a few tickets available for tonight. So if you're looking for some fantastic music, that's happening at the Shankman Arts Center. You can get your tickets online. Again, that's Michael Casehammer performing out there. The 38th annual holiday fundraising art sale is happening at the Ottawa School of Art, their Byward Market campus. Had them on the show earlier this week as well, and just some really fantastic local art, original pieces of art, and honestly, starting anywhere from $10 up to $500. And I know we're always sort of, some of us are a little reluctant to go and buy art because we feel it's expensive. This is a really great sale. I've gone to it in the past, and you can find just some beautiful pieces of work for very reasonable prices. Stray Dog. If you've never been to Stray Dog Brewing Company, first of all, great beer, but they have their great Stray Dog Chili Challenge. It is back. It took a bit of a hiatus, of course, due to the pandemic, but on Saturday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., you can go do some taste testing. They're going to do some pairings with beer as well. Going to be some great entertainment there. They're located out there in Orleans at 501 Lacole Way. Again, Stray Dogs Chili Challenge happening out there. The original Navan Market. This is their final day. So they put on their markets in Navan throughout the season. But, they take obviously a break because they're out there at the Navan Fairgrounds. They take a break over the winter. So this is your last opportunity. Of course, it's really got a holiday theme focus this time around. That's on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pet lovers, if you're looking for something, great idea for pet lovers. Again, after a 2-year hiatus, it is back to in-person. Bring your pets. I'm talking dogs, cats, rabbits, guinea pigs. You can pretty much any pet you can safely bring with you in your vehicle. You can take to the Ottawa Humane Society or various Wren's Pets locations. They're doing Pictures with Santa from November 19th to the 21st. So there's a lot of opportunity for that. If you're looking for some comedy, the Dirty Bird Comedy Festival is happening out at Broadway Brewery. Kyle Brownrigg is going to be the headliner out there. Just amazing comedian in the Canadian comedy scene. He's originally from Ottawa, so that's even better. He now makes his home in Toronto, where he is a local and touring comic. In June of 2019, he was named Best Breakout Artist at the Canadian Comedy Awards and was a finalist in the Sirius XM's Top Comic Competition. So one of the great new faces of comedy. I say new, but he's been on the circuit for quite some time, but that's what it's like in comedy now. Well, it always has been, right? You got to sort of build your audience. So fabulous comedian. He's going to be joined by Eva Alexo, Logan Brown, and Rob Morgan. Saturday, 8 p.m. is the showtime, and that's out there at Broadway Brewery. Also, the Metcalfe Christmas Farmers Market going on November 19th and December 17th from 9 to 2 p.m. That's at the Greeley Community Center. Go hungry, because there's lots of food to eat, lots of choices. Get ready to shop. There's free parking. There's an ATM there as well. They'll have live music. Santa Claus himself will be making an appearance. That's right. So he'll be handing out some candy canes. I'm sure you can probably get some photos with him as well. So again, if you want to get out into the Greeley area, if you want to stay closer to the home, the Glebe Craft and Artisan Fair is going on. It's been happening, by the way, over 40 years now. That has been going on. No tickets necessary. You just come and enjoy, support local. Different vendors each and every weekend. So if you went last weekend, not to worry. This weekend, you'll see different vendors out there. That is this Saturday. That's tomorrow from beginning at 10 a.m. So doors open at 10 a.m. Again, another great opportunity for you to get out there and find some unique gift ideas. All right. Well, I think that does it for me. My goodness, what a great show. Big thanks to all of our guests today, in particular Alex Cullen and Jody Minnick for joining me on Lunch with Derek. Great conversation with them. We didn't even get to all the topics. Talked a little Twitter, some World Cup, some Grey Cup, Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster plan. We didn't even get to the strong mayor powers, which, by the way, Mayor Mark Sutcliffe reiterated yet again that he has no interest and will not be using the strong mayor powers, but right, the term is a long term. It's a 4-year term, so we'll see if that stays. That's one topic we didn't get to, and the other topic is the Prime Minister's residence. This is certainly one of the latest talking points. I don't know if you haven't heard the story. The estimate, and that's a 2021 estimate. So the NCC did an estimate on fixing the building would cost around $37 million. So that's to keep the building, fix it up, upgrade it, bring it up so that people can actually reside in the Prime Minister's residence. And then to tear it down and build new, the estimate is $40 million. So regardless of what choice they make, it's going to cost a lot of money. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk a little World Cup, tell you who some of the favorites are. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Next time on Simply Cooking by Chef,
we're going to be making creme brulee, a risotto with wild-caught salmon, lemon, and fresh herbs, and my favorite mista salad.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, local country band Lemoncast joining us on the show. A fantastic band. If you've never heard of them, we're really excited to introduce you to them. We'll tell you about one of their upcoming shows and, of course, catch up with them, find out what they've been doing over the summer months. And we'll also tell you about an Ottawa-born dancer that was recently recognized none other than Janet Jackson. Oh yeah, I said Janet Jackson. All that and more on Friday's Daytime Ottawa.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Bipolar disorder.
Substance addiction.
Bulimia.
OCD. Want to swap?
1 in 2, a flip of a coin. That's the same chance we'll experience a mental illness by the time we're 40. $1 a day can help change those odds.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aslan and I'm with the Commotions. We are performing Encore Ottawa 3 this week. Be sure to tune in.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. Sam is just off today. She will be back on Monday. And we are going to be talking a little World Cup. I mean, you know, I spoke about some of the negative things a little bit earlier on in the show when it comes to Qatar in itself, but still the World Cup is probably the most watched sporting event. Not probably, it's the most watched sporting event globally. And it always has so much excitement as we get closer and closer to kickoff, which is on Sunday. And here to talk a little bit World Cup, we're joined by Devang Desai. Welcome to the show, Devang.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's great to have you here. So let's dive first of all into Team Canada. I mean, first time in 36 years we find the men's team joining the World Cup. They have their world ranking, FIFA world ranking, as I understand, is I believe they're 41st in the world right now. What do you make of this team?
Well, I think it's a team that's defied expectations throughout the qualifying process. If you asked us way back a year and a half ago if they were going to beat the U.S. and Mexico in qualifying, I think the majority of Canadian soccer fans would have said that's a bit of a pipe dream, yet here we are, and they did that, and they came first in the group. So I think a lot of us are looking at the teams they have to play in Qatar, whether it be Belgium or Croatia and Morocco, and understanding that it's a massive test, but this team has proven that they can shock people.
In those, you know, in their grouping, who do you think is really the favorite there, and what do you think Canada's chances are?
Well, I think the first team they're going to play next Wednesday, Belgium, is arguably the top dog. Kevin De Bruyne on Manchester City, one of the top 5 players in the world. He's world class. But I think the common denominator for the two best teams, Croatia and Belgium, is that they skew a bit on the older side in terms of their roster composition. So there's a lot of known products, a lot of people that have applied their trade at the top levels for a long time. But you could argue that maybe leaves them susceptible to a team with a lot of pace and a lot of game-breaking talent. And I think Canada has both of those things. So Croatia, Belgium, two very good teams. Morocco's got a lot of solid players as well. They should not be underestimated. But I would say Belgium and Croatia are the leaders of the pack and favored to go through.
Of course, John Herdman's done a wonderful job when we look at, sort of tactically how he has formed this team, and the types of formations. Like he's used a number of formations, most notably sort of the 4-3-3, the 3-5-4, the 3-4-3. I mean, he does mix it up. Do you think he continues to do that, or does he choose a specific formation depending on each opponent? What do you expect?
I think that honestly, that's the biggest question I really have.
Really, eh?
I think John Herdman, like you said, he's a master tactician, and he devotes so much of himself into these game plans and keeps things so tight to the vest that it's hard to know really what they're going to do against Belgium, because if they do play normally like they do, it's usually with two midfielders, and then you have fullbacks who are operating as wingbacks that are going up and down the pitch, and then maybe three central defenders at the back. Against Belgium, perhaps you want to pack that midfield because you're going against the Kevin De Bruyne, so you add an extra guy in there, whether it be a Jonathan Osorio or a Sam Piet alongside a Tipa Hutchinson and Stefan Eustáquio. But part of me hopes that Canada does what they've always done so far and play to their strengths and maybe not adapt too much to the competition. But another part of me understands that Belgium is a huge test, and you got to play the competition in front of you. That includes a really, really great player in the middle of the park.
Let's look at the World Cup, overall. Who are the favorites? Who are you excited to watch outside of Canada, Devang?
There's the Lionel Messi story, the factor. Argentina is a very, very popular pick, I think, to win this trophy. And if this is Leo Messi's last tournament, what a story that would be just for the wider soccer world. Brazil, I'm not breaking any news here, but Argentina and Brazil.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Brazil is absolutely loaded with talent, and I think the thing we expect from Brazil usually is the attacking flair and the talent up top. But from back to front, they are just so stacked, and I really think defensively they are underrated. So I expect Brazil to do well, and also Uruguay. So I'm going to go all South America here. Uruguay's got an interesting mix of players playing in their last World Cup, whether it be your Cavani's or your Luis Suarez's, and then an intriguing mix of youngsters who look like they're going to be really, really good at the top level for a long time. So let's go all South American here.
I like it. I think there's, in Ottawa in particular, I know there's a lot of fans of England. What do you think about their chances?
Great team, great collection of players.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question is about the manager, Gareth Southgate. From the highs of Euro 2020 and making the final to now, I think a lot has changed, and his team selection has come under fire, and some recent injuries, including Reece James, the Chelsea star, being rolled out, is leading to more questions about Southgate. So I don't really doubt the quality they have on the pitch, but I do doubt perhaps the manager and how he utilizes his players. So I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run. They've got Harry Kane who can bag goals for fun, but I'm a bit skeptical of the backroom staff.
You mentioned Uruguay, and I sort of had them as one of my dark horses. Maybe they're not really a dark horse after the way you described them. Is there a couple of dark horses in your mind that we should keep an eye out for?
I think Serbia's been a popular pick. I think Alexander Mitrovic for Fulham has been lighting that league up for fun, and alongside Dusan Vlahovic, who plays for Juventus, they can create a lot of problems for teams at the back. The midfield is very strong as well. I think I like Switzerland as well in terms of players that are performing well at the right time. One of the most intriguing parts of this tournament, I think, is going to be the fact that it's happening mid-season. And we've never really seen this before. So injuries happening. We've already seen Sadio Mane for Senegal being rolled out. I think Senegal was going to be a popular pick as well, but that loss is a big one.
For those, I mean, the World Cup is fascinating because what tends to happen is even people that aren't necessarily fans of soccer, they're brought into this spectacle, right? Because it's so exciting, and because it's global, and because it's the most watched sporting event in the world. For those that are sort of tuning in for the first time, Devang, and you want to sort of capture their imagination, who would you suggest they watch? Obviously Brazil for me comes to mind. They're just so exciting with the brand of soccer and you described it so well earlier. But any other team with just that kind of Brazilian flair that new fans might want to check out?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot to choose from, and honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with any of Brazil, Uruguay, or Argentina in terms of that flair. But I think two teams that'll be interesting, and two teams that if you're a soccer fan or a lap soccer fan that you knew in the past to be really good, Spain and Germany, they're in a weird transition, not a weird, but perhaps an interesting transition where a lot of their former stars are now out the door and they're ushering in a new generation. But those young players they have are quite spectacular. And I think the likes of Pedri and Gavi on Spain or Jamal Musiala on Germany,